peace and show respect to the first peoples who inhabit these lands and waters.
Thank you. Madam Administrator, before we read the recommendation to approve the agenda, was there any comment with respect to that one or the last one?
Through you, Chair Solar, my apologies. What was the question? Approval of the agenda?
You had mentioned, I'm sorry, it was on the minutes. I apologize. Okay, the recommendation is to approve the agenda, and the recommendation is that the agenda be approved as presented. Is there a mover? We have a mover. It's Member Mackey, and we have a seconder. It is Member Wood. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Do you feel opposed? Was that opposed, Member Root, or in favor? It's in favor. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, sorry, favor.
Approved. Does any member have a declaration of pecuniary interest to declare or any conflict? None. With respect to the approval of the minutes, you had a comment. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Madam Administrator.
Through your Chair Solar, there will just be a small administrative amendment to these minutes, in which, my apologies, a member was omitted from attendance. Member Paul McQueen, he was here on Zoom Teams last meeting, so we will just make that small administrative amendment to the minutes.
Okay, that amendment will be in there. You've noticed also we have three members on the screen today, I believe. Is that correct? Yes, it is. Recommendation is to approve the minutes, that the minutes contained herein be approved. Is there a mover? Member Martin, seconder, Member Erg. All in favor? Opposed, if any? None opposed. Approved. Any person who wishes to make a presentation to the board must register with the board administrator at least 10 days in advance of the scheduled meeting. To register, you can complete the online form at Grey Bruce OPP Detachment Board /delegations, or call the board administrator at 519-376-2729 extension 601. Now the next one is Grey Highlands OPP Constable Jason Stewart with 2025 Officer of the Year Award, and there's a presentation by Alex Ruff. Before that, I would like to introduce Alex Ruff, our Member of Parliament for Bruce Grey, Owen Sound. Mr. Ruff has been a representative since elected in 2019. He has been a member of our community, I believe, since birth. I can be corrected. Served in the Canadian Armed Forces for over 25 years and has been a member of various committees and councils, too many to list, as our Member of Parliament. He is here today to recognize Jason Stewart as Police Officer of the Year on behalf of Grey Highlands. Colonel Ruff, it's an honor to meet you and welcome to the Grey Bruce OPP Joint Detachment Board meeting. All yours, sir.
Good. I'm assuming the mic can pick me up just wherever I am. I don't have to yell too loudly, or can you hear me there? Yeah, Paul, you can hear me on screen. So look, it's a privilege to be here today, and for everybody in uniform, not just you, Jason. Thank you for your service on a daily basis. I know the summer months are busier than likely the winter months in a lot of ways with the amount of traffic and tourism. I do find it a little bit ironic, Mayor McQueen, not having you here in person and doing this in Georgian Bluffs, but it's still an honor to take this opportunity when we have the police board here in service. But Jason, it's obvious that, it's not just Grey Highlands recognizing your incredible efforts and your as the OPP Officer of the Year award for their municipality. It really is a testament to what you've been doing right across all of Grey Bruce. So it's just an honor for me to be presenting you just with a small certificate to recognize your great service in 2025, and I'm sure right through to now. So I'll do one with Jason, but if all the police officers, if you want to all come down, it'd be good to get a good complete photo if you guys are good with that as well. somebody minds taking a picture with my
Right.
phone.
It's too heavy for you to hold the whole thing up.
Okay, okay.
Want me to take one?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you to the board, and I just want to say it's been an honor to serve and live in this community and this area, and forward to many years here.
With that, I will bid adieu to everybody unless there's something that I'm not being arrested for nothing that I'm aware of today, so
Yeah.
Leave Carol, did you want a group picture?
We just.
Oh, that was the one you wanted, okay.
so anyway, take care, everybody, keep up the great work, and I'm sure we'll see everybody around. If you got any federal issues, reach out to my office at any time. Take care, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Don't go yet, because Paul want to say something.
Oh, for us?
Yeah, I'm assuming. Sorry, Sherry.
That's okay.
Can you hear me? Can
Yeah.
you hear me? Okay, yeah, and nice seeing you, Alex, on the screen there, but I was planning to be there today, but something urgency came up later on this morning I have to deal with. So I just want to say, yeah, we did the presentation at our last council meeting. It's something that Grey Highlands has been doing for pretty much, I think, 2001, and I was just told that the plaque has your engravement into it, and it can be picked up and brought back to, I guess, the Grey Bruce office there, so people can see your name shining brightly on the plaque. So congratulations, Jason.
Thank you.
Thank you. As they say, you're free to go.
Thank you.
Delegations. Any person who wishes to appear before the board regarding an item on the agenda must register with the board administrator. To register, you can complete the online delegation form, call the board administrator at 519-376-2729, extension 601, or register in council chambers prior to the meeting start time. There are no delegations today. Reports. This is where we hear one from the detachment commander. The recommendation is that the Q2 reports be received for information. Is there a mover? Mover is Member Coburn. Is there a seconder? Member Rini seconds it. I'm deferring to the detachment commander.
Thank you for taking the time to recognize Officer Stewart. That was very nice to have that done here. I appreciate that. So I'll start with the statistical report for Q2. The motor vehicle collisions, you'll see that all types of motor vehicle collisions are down for this quarter. So the next page just talks about fatalities, and we had no fatalities this quarter, so there's nothing to report on at all on that page. The next page speaks to the criminal and provincial statute charges. You'll see that all criminal code and provincial statute charges have been increased. I wanted to highlight the Highway Traffic Act charges are up 36%. And I think that comes from our push to really increase the traffic enforcement efforts. So the officers are taking that to heart and doing a good job with that, with their efforts there. The traffic related charges, as you can see, are all up except for the seatbelts, which are down a little bit, but they're still up from 2024.
And distracted driving says it's up 1,300%, which is kind of a big number, but it really is up from 1 to 14. So it's nice to see the officers focusing on that more as well. And the impairments are very consistent over the years. The ticketing warnings are also up about the same percentage, which is to be expected when the highway traffic charges go up, warnings would also go up. As I mentioned before, oftentimes a warning is accompanied with a ticket or a charge. The violent crime, all of these are down except for the robberies. And again, it looks like it's up 300%, but it's really from 1 to 4. I looked into that number. All 4 were incidents where property was taken with physical force, which then constitutes a robbery. It was just physical force, all 4 of them. And all 4 the parties were charged. Property crime, all are down except for possession, but it's only went from 3 to 1. So again, not a huge jump. I think this also speaks to the street crime doing a great work on their investigations, which leads to the next page with the drug crime. You'll see an increase in possession, a slight decrease in trafficking, but again, these numbers are good, and that shows the community street crime unit doing those investigations. And as I've mentioned, sometimes the trafficking investigations take a little longer, so that's why those numbers kind of go up and down depending on when they complete those investigations. The next page are the other crime occurrences. You'll see the first 2 are down significantly. Again, these are crimes that are usually reported to police, so there's nothing that's really concerns me on those numbers, just based on the type of crimes they are. The next page is the youth charges by disposition. There's really nothing significant to report. They're very similar numbers to the previous year. The clearance rates are all up with the exception of other, which is down slightly. So it's always a good thing when you see those clearance rates going up. So it's good to see. Moving on to the public complaints section. You'll see it is an increase from last year. However, it's similar to 2024 number. So, and those are conducts, which again, 5 in the first, in this quarter is nothing that alarms me. And the daily activity reporting, this is something I really want to highlight. You'll see our cruiser patrols up a little bit. ATV patrol, bicycle, and foot patrol are all up significantly, which is really good to see. You'll see that we did not have any aircraft or motorcycle patrol, which are very unique that we don't have in our area. So it depends on if those resources come to our area, which we do not have this quarter. And our marine hours were down slightly, but nothing too significantly there. And our mental health occurrences, those are up slightly, but again, nothing really significant to report. It's just gradually getting a trend upwards there. Overdose, there was no overdoses that were reported to us, so nothing to report there. And then the referrals to victim services, while the referrals were down slightly, it was nice to see that the percentage that was accepted did go up. So that's good to see that more people are getting the assistance that they could require. So that's it for the statistical report, unless there's any questions. And if not, I'll move on to the narrative.
I had one perhaps in this with respect to Crime Stoppers. That was in your report?
Oh, in my narrative one? I haven't got to it yet, but yes, okay. You have a question?
Oh, I was just on my own notes. I wasn't sure, but I just marked page 11 to 17. In the first quarter, there were 168 tips, I noticed. What are the results on that?
So, and that was a typo that I did notice in the report. It's actually second quarter. And I did confirm that it was the right number for the second quarter. I can get the results, but that is all for all of Grey Bruce. So that includes Hanover Police, South Bruce OPP, Owen Sound Police, West Grey, and Saugeen Shores Police. They don't break it down on the stats they provide us. So it would be the results for all of the 2 counties, not just for our policing area. So those tips are for all of Grey Bruce.
I'm just wondering how many of them turn into real investigations or charges, that's all.
So we look into every tip. But how many charges, I would have to get the stats from them.
I'm not that overly curious, but if you do, and I wouldn't waste your time.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Go ahead, Carl.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Inspector, just wanted to pass on sincere appreciation for the increase in the foot patrol. It was evidenced, and I saw them walking on the streets of Chatsworth. So thank you to you and to the other senior management of the OPP. It was appreciated.
Okay, I will move to the narrative report then. So on the first page where I gave my message there, I just want to draw your attention to our staffing, where we had 4 new recruits that arrived at the end of April. And I'm actually going to the recruit ground on Thursday where we're getting 3 more officers. So that's great news, all coming to work here in Grey Bruce. In May, we had several members that were trained in bicycle patrol training in King Garden, which, as you saw in the report, our bicycle patrol hours were up because we had more officers trained. So that was good to see them putting it to use so early. I speak to some of the community events that we were involved in this quarter. I want to highlight that we hosted our barbecue on June 8th at our Wyerton detachment for our veterans. So every year we host an event to honor our veterans that have retired from the OPP. And we had a great turnout. Deb, I believe it was over 60 people. Henry, I think it was 60 retirees attended. So it was really great. We had the OPP helicopter came. We had a K9 demonstration, a scenario. And so, you know, some of these officers have been retired for a long time, so they got to see how things have progressed over the years. So it was a really good day to have in our local area to celebrate them. I also wanted to draw your attention to the Canada Road Safety Week results. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Inspector, could you just give a brief overview? You talked about the new recruits that are coming, what their, the first, the orientation looks like for them. You know, big geographic area. Are they teamed up with someone else
Yes.
for a period of time? Just highlight.
Absolutely, yes. So Officer Stewart that was here, he's a coach officer, which is what some of our senior officers are. So when a new recruit arrives at our detachment area after their significant training at the Ontario Police College and the Provincial Police Academy in Aurelia, which is specific OPP training, they arrive at our detachment and they are paired up with a coach officer for 2 months on day shifts. So for 2 months, they ride with their coach officer throughout their shifts. And then after 2 months, as long as they're progressing well, they're allowed to go on their own during the day hours. And then for 4 months total, they ride with their coach officer on nights. And then after those 4 months, as long as, again, they're progressing as we would expect them to be, they're on their own on nights. So for those first 4 months, they're driving around with that person, learning the area, learning about the different types of calls, and having that one-on-one coaching right with them. Obviously they have a sergeant too. They'll work in a zone that's close to somebody else as well. So they're still not on their own until they're comfortable. And they're on probation for usually 10 months up to 11 months.
Thank you for that question, Scott. Keep going.
So yeah, I wanted to draw your attention to our results from the Canada Road Safety Week, which was the week leading into Canada Day. And so Grey Bruce laid 266 traffic charges, which placed us 3rd overall in West Region. So West Region goes all the way from Windsor up to Tobermory and across to Guelph. So really good results for our officers. So going to the crime unit update, just draw your attention to on June 15th, where they were proactively searching for a male who wanted in connection with fleeing from the police, dangerous driving, and several intimate partner violence offenses. So they were in their crime car, not in uniform, and they located the individual operating the vehicle in the city of Owen Sound. So they liaised with Owen Sound City Police and were able to get a traffic stop conducted and arrest that male safely. During this quarter, they laid a total of 17 criminal charges. Again, that might seem like a lower number for a unit. However, remembering that these are more in-depth investigations, they're doing the serious assaults, the in-depth frauds, and serious files such as that. So they take a little bit longer to investigate. Moving on to the Community Street Crime Unit, just to highlight some of the great work they've done this quarter. The first one was in North Bruce Peninsula, where someone alerted us that something was for sale on Marketplace, and therefore they were able to execute a warrant at this address on North Bruce Peninsula, and they recovered 4 stolen vehicles, as well as 2 rifles and some money, total of $156,000 for all of the recovered items. Then in March, they were investigating some trafficking and in the municipality of Meaford. So they drafted a warrant in an address in Meaford. You'll see the photos on the next page where the door was barricaded, so they had to breach the door. Took them a little longer to get in, so when they got inside, the suspect was actually trying to flush a fanny pack down the toilet, which they were able to get before he was successful, and it contained fentanyl and methamphetamine. And so they were able to seize drugs value of over $5,000, and then some offense-related property around $1,200, and this would have a significant impact on the drug trade in all of Grey Bruce. And the other picture that side of the unit shows the drugs that were seized. And then just another one where they were doing, we had a lot of break-in enters during the spring, and so they were able to identify some potential suspects. And then based on their intelligence and their investigations, they were able to locate and arrest the 3 suspects. They were driving a vehicle that was loaded with stolen property and towing a stolen trailer at the time. So based on that, they then wrote some warrants, executed 5 search warrants, and seized a significant amount of stolen property, including 16 firearms, valuing over $127,000. So some really great work that was done this quarter. I added a new section.
On that?
Yeah.
On the, when you say trafficking, I always, and I don't know if it's rumors, and you might not be able to answer this question. Do we have a problem with human trafficking in our area?
I wouldn't say we have a big issue in our area, no.
Because there is always rumors on the streets of that, and I never see any charges, I never see any, so thanks for that.
Yes,
answer.
we had a presentation here after, I think it was, member Nicole, right, you went and Rainey went.
Yeah.
And because sometimes that when they do presentations, it makes people think, oh my goodness, this is a huge problem in our area. So it's a kind of a compromise between too much information and not enough, and maybe getting people too heightened, but we want people to be aware of it, but it's not a huge issue in Grey Bruce. It happens for sure, but it's not a huge issue.
A follow-up question on that. Does it seem to be located more so in cottage country in the rental units?
I wouldn't say that would.
No? Okay. Any follow-up, any further questions?
No, I'm good, no, thanks.
Okay.
So I added a new section to the report this month, the Detachment Abuse Issues Investigators. I thought it was good to have something from them as well. They work in our crime unit, 2 detectives. This is a program that the OPP brought in. There's 70 of them across the province. We have 2 in our detachment based on our size and volume of calls. They provide specialized support for our abuse-related investigations, and they also work with our community partners and justice partners to enhance service for victims. So one of the things they did this quarter was they partnered with Own Sound Police, and they delivered an educational session for our Crown attorneys the discussions were on policies, bail release considerations, and the importance of enforceable bail release conditions for monitoring these high-risk offenders. So it was good to have that communication with the Crown attorneys so that we're on the same page, essentially. Another section I added was the Offender Management and Apprehension Program. This is a new program that started in January. A dedicated program, I should say. We've had it in place previously, but this became a dedicated program where we now have 2 officers in this role. They focus on offender management, as their name states, and they work on carrying out coordinated efforts to apprehend wanted people. So during this quarter, they managed 74 bail compliance checks, so checking on people that are out on release, 69 of which were compliant and 7 were not and were arrested. They were instrumental in execution of 41 criminal warrants for wanted persons, so locating 41 people that were wanted. Just highlighting one of the things they were able to do was in April, they successfully coordinated to get a man returned to Grey Bruce that was in Nova Scotia that was wanted for sex offenses. And so they were able to get him back here and hold him for a bail hearing by liaising with the police out there.
Say, why did we want them back?
Well, then he had his name for it.
Yeah.
Provincial liaison team, I'm not gonna go through all this, but again, it just highlights some of the areas they've assisted with. They've helped on Neshiniming and Saugeen, but also in our other municipalities. So it's something for our municipal members here to remember that they are a resource that's available to you. Our mobile crisis response team, we now have 3 full-time and 2 part-time clinicians in Grey Bruce. A new schedule was implemented in May, since we now have more people, so it provides more overlap coverage from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday to Friday. It's split the hospital wait times here that it can range from 14 minutes to over 4 hours. They've worked on giving updated care plans for those few specific individuals who are higher risk and more complex cases that sometimes take us longer. And then it shows the mental health calls there at the bottom, and you'll see that they are all up from Q1. So as you can see, mental health calls do take up a significant amount of our time.
Just going back, with respect to that, but going back to the bail breaches, if I can ask a question, you indicated there were 7 bail breaches where there were charges laid. What were the nature of those?
So they were not in compliance with the release conditions.
Yeah, but specifically, what would it have been? Was it,
I would imagine because they're doing checks at their residence that they weren't where they're supposed to be.
okay, it's just a,
House arrest, that type
it's
of
just,
thing.
I'm just curious, was it domestically related?
I don't have that specifically in the statistics, it wasn't broken down that way, but if it's something I can look into.
And the only reason I'm asking is some of these, from my own experience, point out that there's literacy issues or mental health issues, a lack of understanding what the conditions were in the first instance. So you don't get behind it. You just take a look and say, okay, you're in breach of the condition.
Yes.
Yeah, and in my own experience, I've seen it where they didn't understand what the condition was. That's what walks them into it. And that may have been illiteracy or mental health. And that's my concern. Anyway.
Moving on to the auxiliary unit. Again, we have a great auxiliary unit. We only have 7 active members currently, but they contributed 792 hours to our communities in this quarter of volunteer time. They help with the Speed Spy program by setting it up in areas of concern. They've also set up the signs on the highways, Highway 6 and 10, that shows the number of stunt drivers so far this year, as well as many community events that they attend and patrol with our officers. We've already spoken about the Crime Stoppers, that there was 168 tips in all of Grey Bruce this quarter. Moving forward, I can get the result. I asked them for more details for their stats that they provide us. So our media, our community engagement officer, this highlights some of the events that we participated in. The first one is McHappy Day. We did that in Dundalk, and the location, which is, some people would say on Sound, but it's actually in Georgia Bluffs. That's true, yeah, which is why we're there. The next one speaks to our Shop with a Cop, which we've been doing for as long as I've been in Grey Bruce, so at least since 2023, in Wyerton at the Foodland. This is in partnership with, I believe, the Optimist Club, and 5 schools participate. The students get a $200 budget, and they have to try to stay within it, and they get a list of what's needed at the food bank, and you try to get close as you can. You can see the winning team got $199.99. And all the food purchased went back to the food bank. So it's a great day, a lot of fun. The kids have a good time competing for that, and it's for a good cause. And each team is paired up with 1 or 2 police officers. So they also did an event on the Friday of the May long weekend with students against impaired driving at our 3 local high schools, so Wyerton, Meaford, and Fletcherton. And we just reminded them to drive safely, not just the long weekend, but all the time. So that was a good thing as they're leaving for the long weekend. Then there's another event that was at the Hebra School, Brenda's Parade Heroes, benefiting the Canadian Cancer Society and Wings for Kids. We participate in the law enforcement torch run for Special Olympics every year with our municipal policing partners. And all funds raised help support our local Special Olympians. And then the last one is an event that was at Saugeen Beach which was a celebration partnership with Sauble Beach and Saugeen First Nation, first day of summer, safe and Sauble kickoff. And we brought our vehicles and whatnot to be on display. And there was a barbecue that Saugeen put on, and just a chance for people to come and see the different emergency services. And that is it for my 2 reports, unless there's any questions.
Being around, okay, Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Inspector, just a general question. You know, we had an officer appreciation this morning, specific to Grey Highlands. I'm just wondering on behalf of the entire detachment, is there what the criteria is for officer recognition? What programs are in place now to recognize officers, and whether or not this board and the Grey County or Bruce Grey should be looking at some sort of recognition program?
Yes, thank you. Recognizing the officers is something that's I really like to do. We like to do a good job of making sure that we recognize the good work our officers are doing. So Grey Highlands has had that in place, I think Mayor McQueen said, since 2001. So that's something they've done and they wanted to continue, even though it's different police boards now, or one big board. So that's something the board wanted to bring in as a Grey Bruce award. That would be great. Officer Stewart, he reports out of the Meaford Detachment actually, but in Grey Bruce you work everywhere. He's a drug recognition expert officer, he's a breath technician, he's a coach officer, so he's all over the county doing his job. So, and how that is recognized is we send it out to the detachment and saying, put in your nominees for Officer of the Year. So his sergeant who's here nominated him based on all the extra work he does, the different roles he takes on. And so I think, did we have a few nominees, and that's who we selected, I believe, 2 or 3 nominees? Yeah. So we select them based on the nominees. Other things, there's a lot of things that the OPP does to recognize. We have letters of recognition, which is just something that we can draft and it just goes on their personnel file. We have more elevated levels of recognition, such as commander's coins. So West Region Command coin for leading with pride, courage, something else. There's 3 different coins, and you can get a regional commander's letter. There are accolade awards, which are OPP wide. We've actually had our auxiliary officers win that the past 2 years. So best auxiliary officer in the province, officer of the year, there's different awards that are OPP wide. So we do nominate people for those regularly whenever something comes up that we think deserves extra recognition. And sometimes it's a simple recognition on their file if it's just something that we think they should be told, good job. So recognizing our members is something that's important to all 3 of us, and so we try to make sure that we are doing that regularly.
Let's start with Jay.
Just adding on to the suggestion is, this is the first I had heard of, what was going on there. So I'm in favor of something like that, whether it's each municipality that does it or, a recommendation coming from the police. But I think when you are recognizing officers, I'm not sure if it gets out to the general public in the way that it should. So how can we help to do that? Maybe there is enough recognition going on, but it's not being advertised properly. I'm not sure. Maybe it is, maybe I just don't read the news enough.
And that's tricky because some officers don't want to be out in the media because they have aspirations to maybe do something undercover down the road. So that's why it's tricky on some officers. Like, he was okay with his picture being in the paper, but some don't want that, right? So it's that balance of, yes, we want to recognize them, but we also have to respect their wishes if they don't want to have their face out there. But I think that South First Peninsula at one point did Officer of the Year because Katie White got it. I remember going for it.
No, I don't think that was Officer of the Year because I actually was at that one. I think it was just for a really good investigation that she did, and the
I just remember going
I think it was a one-time thing.
Okay.
yeah, they wanted to
I remember
recognize.
just going once and I thought that that was something like that, but yeah.
Sorry.
I was just gonna say, further to that, I certainly see those recognitions in social media. So I'm not sure if it gets through to the mainstream media, but like the auxiliary officer who was recently recognized for years of service. even bystanders that are awarded or given recognition. So I think it's happening on social media, but not everybody uses social media as well.
And I know that our community engagement officer, I think he came and spoke to you guys and talked about the media portal and had the opportunity for all the municipal reps to share that with their media person to go onto that portal, because he sends out all the media releases and it's up to the media what they pick up. So he might do a media release on something, but maybe they don't pick it up, so it doesn't get into the mainstream media, it's only on social media. And just to speak about the bystanders, I just got a box of 92 awards from the ice rescue event. So we nominated a bunch of people, like all the fire, EMS, everything. Some people were put forward, like our pilots were put forward for a life-saving award, but everyone else, there's regional commander letters for them. So we do put in a lot of recognition. And then I don't know if you saw just last week or the week before, 2 young people in Grey Highlands, they're going into grade 8 and 10, and they helped a boater that was in distress on Lake Eugenia. We were about an hour away from getting there. They towed him to shore where paramedics were waiting for him and helped him. He was having some medical issues and his boat had stalled and he couldn't get back to shore. So we recognized them with a regional commander's letter as well.
So I think the recognitions are happening, and it sounds like you're doing a great job of recognizing the folks that you are. Maybe when they come to the board and we can see more of that for recognition, that's when a press release from our board could go out to say we also recognize them, and that would increase the visibility as well.
So to everyone, that was the purpose of me asking the MP to come to recognize that officer. Grey Highlands has done a great job, and since Alex has been the MP, he's recognized the officer every year. But I thought it appropriate for our board to also recognize the officer or officers each year, not wanting to step on Grey Highlands' toes, who have done it for years now, but in conjunction, hopefully, Paul would be happy to have us recognize that as a board as well as Grey Highlands specifically.
Is there any questions from anybody on the screen? We have 3 members up there. Any further discussion there? Not at the moment. Bob, did you have something?
Well, we're done with the recognition thing. No. Okay.
No. Sorry, go ahead, Kathy.
Well, I just wanted to pick up on what Carol was saying. So do you think we could do more in terms of a press release, or do you think it's enough that we
I don't think there's anything wrong with a press release. I understand what the commander is saying. Young officers especially have aspirations to sometimes do heavy undercover work and whatever, and in those cases, they don't want their face out there. But for most uniformed officers, I think it would be, unless it's not appropriate for them, for whatever reason, to be recognized, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I'm hearing, the board would be in support of some sort of formal recognition from this board. And if that's the case, could we ask the inspector and the senior management team with the OPP to think about it and come back with some suggestions on how this board could recognize an officer every year?
I think that's a good idea. Go ahead, Gary.
Further to that, maybe Jerry, in your capacity, meeting with other boards, find out what they might be doing. If something's already established, maybe we could all kind of get on the gravy train.
I would put the onus on Madam Administrator to do a little homework for us.
Through Chair Solich, to see what other boards are doing regarding
With respect to recognition. Then bring that back at the next meeting, and then if there's something to draft, we could do that. I'm sorry, Paul.
Just to add a little bit of context to what Grey Highlands. Can you hear me there?
Is it our volume? Hang on one sec. Is it our volume or is it his volume?
Try to crank mine up. Hang on. Mine's full.
Go ahead.
I'll speak loud. Just to add a little bit of context to what Grey Highlands does. It's been, like I said, it's been in place since Grey Highlands has been Grey Highlands, and something was initiated by Lynn Silverton, as everybody probably knows, and she was chair for quite a long time. Basically, goes out to the Grey Bruce Detachment, and it's picked among their colleagues, the individual. And then when the presentation is presented to our council meeting, we provide a little plaque in recognition of that the individual receives, along with there's a larger plaque that I mentioned earlier on, that every year, every officer that has been recognized is on the bigger plaque, and that hangs in the detachment office. So we add a little bit to that in the sense of a small plaque and also adding to a bigger plaque. So I don't see any problem if the Grey Bruce Detachment Board wanted to do that, but I just wanted to give you a little context of what Grey Highlands has been doing. And I think the bigger part was is before the Police Services Board in Grey Highlands dissolved, that was something that through council they wanted to continue to recognize that individual. I could have that conversation with our council, maybe in the next, well, whoever's in the next term could talk about that, I guess. But that's something that if there was a recognition through the Grey Bruce, whether that would be something that Grey Highlands wants to continue with. More importantly, it's a part of recognizing that individual each year. So that was the crux of why it was being done. So I just added that context.
Anybody else want to? Sorry,
Deborah had her hand up a moment ago.
go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I was just going to mention when you were highlighting the media or what you thought was back there of media, I think it was covered that, members of the board, it would be probably to your advantage to sign up to get all the social media for Grey Bruce and see all, because it's not just for recognition, it's, media releases on successful warrants that have been executed and things like that. So to keep you apprised in real time of what the detachment is releasing to the media, if you sign up for that and get those social media releases, you'll be on top of it. Just wanted to point that out.
If they follow West Region, they get a good deal of that.
Yes.
West Regional.
Go ahead, Bob.
Mr. Chair, further to your suggestion, your recommendation, I put forth a motion that the detachment commander at our next board meeting bring back a report recommending how the board could get involved with recognition of officers.
Any comments on that?
Just, is that okay? Like, is that something that you can do?
Sure. Just a friendly amendment to it, and then I'd be happy to second if you'll indulge me. The program to start in the 2027 year. So we're not going to try to do another one this term.
Like obviously the recommendation would come back and I'm sure there are all kinds of things that they would consider. That would be part of it. We're not making any decision to do it. We just want the experts, the ones that can better identify how we should do this, if we should do it, and when we should do it. All those questions would be part of that report that comes back to us, a recommendation.
Effectively gets booted onto the next board as
That's what I really want.
Yeah.
I want it to, and not that I'm trying to kick down the can or anything like that, but I think there could be budget implications, there could be selection criteria, there could be a whole bunch of things that we're not thinking of right around this table right now. And I don't want it to come back and us just going, yeah, we want to do this without having that,
Now, the reality is there's going to be unfinished business.
That's right.
We know that. So that's going to be the onus of the new board.
I just don't want this board to think that, we're going to get a policy next meeting next month that we're going to implement and nominate, Officer X for this. It's not going to happen overnight.
It wouldn't happen realistically because, and we'll see when recommendations of the meetings are, but it would seem to me that it's going to be September would be our last meeting of this board. So whatever winds up in that, being recommended in that meeting winds up being presented to the new board in January.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else, any further discussion on this at all?
I'm seconding my motion, Nicole.
I am, yes.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Okay, seconding the motion. You want to read the motion?
Absolutely, through you, Chair Solersh, that the board requests that the detachment commander prepare a report outlining opportunities for the board to formally recognize police officers for exemplary service, including potential recognition programs and the board's role in their implementation, with any approved program to commence in the 2027 board term.
In favor? Opposed, if any? None. Passed. Carried. Okay, Bob? Yes, sir.
Then with that, thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question for you, Commander. This will relate, I guess, it'll be adjacent to your statistical analysis. Meaford, we at our council meeting, we were just discussing the potential for traffic calming and safety purposes of lowering the speed limit from 50 to 40 in all the rural, or all the urban area of Meaford and the rural settlement areas. And I'm just wondering whether, and I said I would bring this up, we had a discussion, when it comes to impact on something like that, it tends to be more psychological, because obviously you can't cover everything. We don't expect the OPP to do that, but if it's 50, you know, people are doing 60, if you bring it down to 40, are they doing 50? It's a psychological advantage. But we're wondering, is there any statistical support of success of that kind of motion in traffic calming from the OPP's perspective? Is there an opinion on that of whether or not that's effective as a measure to help reduce speed in urban areas?
Wow, that's a
No pressure.
I would want to look at probably some statistics in the town to see specific into that area, but I don't know that, I honestly don't know that it would make a huge difference. Like you said, it's more of a psychological thing. Like, we're still going to be where we can be enforcing, but we can't be everywhere.
Sure.
Will people reduce their speed, hopefully, to then go by the new speed limit? I don't really have anything to speak to, like, as to compare it to give you a solid answer that's based in fact. So I don't really have.
Tell the province to bring back speed cameras.
Well, yeah, I got my hotline to Doug, sure. So my question is more related to support, I suppose, because we totally realize that it's not going to increase enforcement in any capacity. It's more about whether or not there's historical consideration that has been successful. I just was wondering whether OPP had any opinions as to whether or not they've deemed that to be successful in other municipalities who have done it. Moreover, whether or not the OPP supports that kind of initiative, because once again, we know statistically it's less likelihood of death at a lower impact. So whether or not this is something the OPP recommends or just wants to stay out of it.
Yeah, I can't think of any other significant reductions, like, since I've been here to speak to. And I would have to go to, like, the corporate to see if that's something that they would, like, you know, based on other areas, is it something that they would recommend or not? I know that some areas, like some of those more traffic calming things, can be beneficial, like the speed bumps and things like that, but then that gets to be difficult for winter maintenance and whatnot, you gotta remove them. So yeah, there's a lot of different things, it's what the municipality thinks is best for them, essentially.
Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have anything statistical, but through observations, I can tell you that what Wyerton did in their downtown, as much as people speak adversely to what they did downtown, it has had a very positive effect on the traffic flow through the town. Simply because, and they never reduced the speed limit at all, but by narrowing the lanes, people are forced to drive slower.
Right.
And in my opinion, it worked in Wyerton so far. I think it's been fairly successful, as much as people hate it. It does work. I think that asking the OPP is probably, you're starting at the wrong spot. I think you should go to the MTO. They would have better statistics in regards to what speed reduction works and what doesn't. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones that actually implement that. I know the town can implement it on their own municipal roads. But the other thing that I think should be considered is if the town of Meaford is deciding to go to 40 kilometers per hour everywhere in the town, what are you doing? Like, what's supporting that? Has there been an increase of people pedestrians being struck by cars? Are accidents, have they increased? I'm not like, I don't know if just changing it for changing it is going to really have that much of a positive effect on the community. And having said that, if you're going 40 kilometers an hour and get hit by a car, whether you get hit at 40 or 50, you're probably not going to have a good day. So those are the other things as far as traffic flow, road rage, all of those different things, just because of a speed limit. And for us to enforce that is, it's time consuming and it's labor intensive. So I feel like you should look at traffic calming measures before I would just put up speed signs. That's just my opinion. There's no stats based on that, but that's what I've observed in Wyerton and in our detachment area.
Appreciate that. So statistically, it's like a 35% chance of death at 40 to 50, and that's one of the reasons, and it comes from a lot of public requests for this, because people on side streets, because this wouldn't happen on the main corridors. This would be only obviously in all the secondary streets in the town. So it comes more from a lot of public requests to try and, because as Marl said, in terms of putting calming effects in, we did like the idea of trying to figure out ways of reducing speed, and narrowing is one. Can't do it in all streets, can't put speed bumps in all streets, doesn't work in winter. So if it's an overall psychological aspect of trying to bring it down, not trying to put more pressure obviously on you, it's much more of trying to get public buy-in just because of a mentality perspective. But I do like the idea of MTO, and we will follow up with that.
You want to weigh in?
So through you, Mr. Chair, just checking AI. Canadian study examined Edmonton's reduction of residential speed limits from 50 to 40 kilometers, and researchers found 25% reduction in total collisions, 31% reduction in injury and fatal collisions, and statistically significant reductions in average vehicle speeds after implementation. So lower speed limits provide drivers more time to react. Stopping distances are shorter. Crash energy is substantially reduced. Pedestrians struck at a lower speed are far more likely to survive. So there are Canadian studies that have looked at that. Now it doesn't go into how they collected the data and everything, but there does seem to be some studies that are in favor of it for traffic calming.
Great, thank you very much.
I'm sorry, Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Stay tuned, Rob. The Grey County Transportation Department has been asked by Grey County Council. There's been a number of requests come in regards to changing speed limits in a lot of the villages that county roads traverse through. So county did bring back a report looking at traffic calming in general. Specific, there's been a lot of work done in Kimberley, and they're still wanting more. So transportation is bringing back a report to county council on what actually is working and what
that's good to hear.
People think works, but doesn't.
Right.
So there'll be more information coming.
That's good to hear, because we were concerned, obviously, we can obviously control X roads, but we can't control county roads in some of the rural settlements. So we were wondering whether there would be a piggyback mechanism or whether there was interest. So appreciate that.
Jump in, Jay.
Yeah, just to reiterate what the officer said, it's the biggest thing is the calming of traffic and the interpretation when you're driving down the road. And we had great success with line painting at Sauble Beach in certain areas where, because we have traffic coming into Sauble on our municipal roads, not just the county road,
right,
that are coming in at full speed, and they're all of a sudden in a community because the subdivision comes at you right away. So we found the line painting. We did, we talked to everybody. We hired an engineer. They did the studies. whenever we reduced speed limits with signs, then the whole community flipped out on us because they're the ones getting the ticket.
Yeah.
It's not the tourists that are getting the ticket, it's the local that lives on the street that just is used to driving. So we got into trouble with both sides of the fence when we, like in Red Bay, we reduced it to 40. And then all of a sudden we started hearing from the residents, like, are you crazy? 40 in January, I gotta go 40 kilometers an hour when I'm the only one who lives in Red Bay. So we're in a tourist town, but I agree with what the officer says. It is just the interpretation of calming and making the lanes look skinny. People automatically just put off the throttle and ease themselves through, except the guy hauling the disc, the tractor guy that went through wires and taken off every mirror all the way as he went through. Didn't catch him till up at Mar. But it works, the calming of it. That's
Right.
all the studies we've done. It's the calming of traffic and interpretation of making you think you don't have room. And even with a line on the road, it's working so far.
Yeah, the line painting is good. We considered they put the indicators in the middle of the streets. But the problem with that and sleeping soldiers and things like that is in the rural settlements, we have so many farm equipment that comes through that it becomes actually a problem for that. So it limits kind of what you can do as well, but line painting is definitely one that could be considered.
Okay, let's try, any further questions? We've got to move on to the next thing. Go ahead.
Well,
Last question.
this is a new topic now. Back to Jay's question about human trafficking and your response. I think we all heard of the more recent attempted abduction in Harrison Park of a 13-year-old girl. When that happened, I think every one of us would think, wow, that doesn't happen in our area. That's 401 Toronto stuff. I've read media stories, and you never know what to believe in the media, that there's a creep of these organizations that are coming to smaller, less densely populated areas like Grey Bruce, Owen Sound, Hanover, Meaford, so on, because there's a market here for if there's drugs, and it's all connected. These organizations seem to be in what they do. And so my question, I guess, is are we collectively as a law enforcement community, including all of the municipal police services as well as the OPP, working together, like perhaps sort of like the undercover assets that might be helping to get to the root of when these people come here? I had a conversation at the convention with some of the board members from Owen Sound, and of course it's been in the news that they put pressure on their council to enforce bylaws with respect to drug use and things that are going on in the core of the city. And some of their comments are that, well, the numbers are growing and the number of people, maybe that's because, the supply is here for drugs. And then when we hear of this situation in Harrison Park where a 13-year-old girl is abducted or attempted to be abducted, I guess my question is, are we recognizing this is not necessarily an issue for this area, that it's creeping? It's not bad like it is in the city, but we shouldn't overlook it or not be proactive as opposed to, no, it's not an issue here. It's not something we need to worry about.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to say it's not an issue at all. That's how you took it. I meant to say it's not a big issue, but we want people to be aware of it. That's why we do the presentations. We want people to be aware of the signs and to be able to identify it if they see it, because historically people didn't know what human trafficking was. So we continue to educate the public. We have trained human trafficking expert officers at our detachments. We have a human trafficking unit which presented to the board, I don't know how many months ago. So we do have those experts. We do train our officers on what to look for. I'm not going to speak to the incident on Sound because I don't know the details, so I'm not going to speak to that one. I don't know what the situation was there or if it was human trafficking related. But yes, I do think that our officers are trained to watch for it, and I think we are handling it appropriately.
The one thing that came out of that seminar that Carol and I went to is there seems to be a relationship with drugs, though. Like you get some of these girls connected, you get on drugs and then they're vulnerable, and and all of this. And so it's not just drugs or human trafficking, it's the whole things that are happening in our society. And we'd like to think, no, that's not our problem. That's why we live here. It's big city stuff, not where we live. But maybe that's not necessarily the case. And maybe we need to be more proactive to apprehend, to see if these people are coming in to sell drugs and do these things and catch them before they are in a position to do it through, as I say, maybe more undercover, more detection methods where Crime Stoppers, all these people, certainly organizations like them are geared to do this, I guess, but maybe if people don't recognize the signs, if they don't think there's a problem, they're not necessarily coming forth and pointing these things out.
And that's why we continue to educate. I know that the Community Safety Wellbeing Crime Prevention Table has just recently created some literature for Airbnbs and rentals. So that's going to be distributed to people that have those facilities, so they can have it posted there as well, and that they're aware when people are renting their facilities. So there is work being done to educate the public, and that's the biggest thing to do, is educate people so that when they see it, they do recognize it.
Okay, Jody, did you have a question there? Your hand was up earlier.
Oh, through you, Chair Sollers, thank you. I think it was actually answered with the resolution that was voted on regarding the detachment commander preparing the report. I just wanted to circle back because there was some talk of reaching out to PGO or police boards for staff, but I think it was addressed with the detachment commander preparing the report.
Thank you very much. I'd like to move on at this point. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just before we move on, if I could just end with one thing. I believe our next meeting is until September. So I just wanted to recognize Staff Sergeant Deborah Anderson. She's retiring in September. So this will be her last meeting with us after 30 plus years of with the OPP. So we're gonna really miss Deb and all of her experience and knowledge that she shared with us. So I just wanted to recognize her here in front of the board and thank her for everything.
Okay, let's finish this off with the recommendation that the Q2 reports were received for information. We had our discussion, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Okay, we're up to administration and finance. How long do you anticipate that could take? Just wonder if we should take a quick break at this point, or do you want to keep plowing on?
I think everybody's just going out and getting a coffee.
Okay, let's keep plowing on. Just get up and everybody but the people on the screen. How's that? Not pour their own coffee. Okay, administration and finance. Recommendation is that the report, OPP 2026-10, results of the OPP Detachment Board Governance Self-Assessment Survey be received for information. Is there a mover? Moved by Member Dowd, seconder, Member Wood. Is there any discussion? Has everybody had an opportunity to look at it? Anybody want to speak to it? Jody?
Through you, Chair Sollers, absolutely. Let me just pull it here. Okay, so yeah.
This includes the survey.
The report, yeah, so I'll provide a brief overview through you, Chair Sollers.
Yeah.
This report presents the results of the board's first governance self-assessment survey, which was completed by 14 board members between June 12th and the 25th of 2026 using the Police Governance Ontario Governance Self-Assessment tool provided by PGO. Overall, the survey indicated that the board is making positive progress in its governance role while also identifying several areas where further improvement would strengthen board effectiveness. Members generally demonstrated a good understanding of board governance responsibilities and the distinction between governance and police operations. However, responses also suggested that some members would benefit from additional orientation and continued governance training to ensure a consistent understanding of the roles and responsibilities. A recurring theme throughout the survey was board size, which is what it is, and member engagement. Several respondents commented that the board is quite large and that participation varies among members. Survey responses also indicated opportunities to improve governance processes by placing greater emphasis on strategic discussions, governance-focused agendas, and long-term planning. Orientation and ongoing education were also identified as areas of improvement, particularly for newer members who indicated they are still becoming familiar with the board roles and responsibilities. Members were generally positive about the board's relationship with the detachment commander, describing communication as respectful and effective. Responses relating to community and municipal engagement were mixed. It was more mixed, suggesting that there might be opportunities to strengthen external relationships and public engagements, which may have budgetary implications, as I don't believe right now it is budgeted for. Overall, members described the board as organized, collaborative, and improving in confidence. The report concluded that while the board continues to mature, addressing areas such as member engagement, governance processes, orientation, and the role clarity will further strengthen effectiveness. And this report is just presented for information. There's no immediate financial impacts associated with receiving it, although future initiatives arising from the survey may have budgetary implications.
Go ahead, start with Kathy.
Thank you, and thanks for the report, Jody, through you, Chair. One thing that jumped out at me was orientation for board members. We get our online training at a higher level, but what I think perhaps was a little lacking was orientation for this table, including procedures, especially for folks who aren't as familiar with procedural matters. I recently joined a nonprofit board in the community just on my own time, and at my very first meeting, I was given a binder, an orientation binder. It has everything I need to know in it, including the most up-to-date financial reports. And I'm just wondering, unless I've forgotten, I don't think we got an orientation binder for this board. I think it's important to have that for the incoming board, especially if a lot of the faces are going to be different. That manual could include references to the Act, key PGO resources for board members, our own board policies and the procedure bylaw, and the financial breakdown. So I'm wondering, rather than set the new board up for a slow start like we got, I wonder if we could set the board up for more success if we moved that an orientation binder we put together for the new board. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It's something that will be a work in progress and change over time. But I found it very unusual for a board of this nature not to be handed something as a new board member.
Nicole had a comment.
I'm sorry, for you, Mr. Chair, I do recall a duotang. It wasn't a binder per se, but it was a duotang. And there was, I thought, a good orientation. I remember we sat down as a board. It wasn't in this room, no. I want to say it was up at the museum. The museum, right? Am I right, Jody? Yeah. Thank you. I'm like, I remember doing like an orientation up there. It was a couple of hours. I want to say there was definitely a little duotang package. Because I can picture where it is on my desk. That's why I say it. But I do agree that it was a slow start, but I think that was because maybe the province and just starting a board from scratch like that and the provincial requirements around that sort of thing. I thought the orientation that the province made us do it online was a little too excessive. Yeah, 8 hours, it was like, you know, it was a little excessive. It was a little high level, right? Like, but I have no idea what the next board is going to, you know, look like, consist of. So I do agree that, you know, as councils move, as boards move, as membership moves, you know, there always is that, you know, turnover relationship building.
Just to respond to that, and yet the survey seems to indicate that orientation could be better. So if we do have a duotang, I wonder if we need to pull it out because we have a lot more resources now than we did when we
Absolutely.
started because PGO is busy churning them out for us, for example. And again, we don't, for a new board, they would need to know the starting point for finance, which is not part of the binder. So if we do have something, perhaps we need to pull it out and have staff maybe give recommendations for what it could have in there, how it might be beefed up a little bit, given the new resources that have been coming along.
Are you suggesting that's something our administration support could be doing, putting together a binder or retaining somebody from the outside?
Well, it sounds like we already have one. I guess I have forgotten.
I don't recall it either. Do you, Carol? No?
I know we do, we pull it out and.
Was it just for community members, perhaps?
No, I don't.
I do believe there was a Detachment handed out
No, I don't.
Just, sorry, just one second.
at our, I do believe there was a Detachment handed out at our original meeting, which was at Grey Roots. It wasn't, that one wasn't live streamed, but it was where some members were sworn in, I believe, as well. But yes, it wouldn't have had our policies because those were developed later, so they could, yes.
It was basic orientation.
Yes, it was basic.
Conduct at a table, things like that.
So a couple of us weren't at that meeting, so that would explain why none of this is sounding familiar to us. So look, I don't wanna mince words or I don't want this to be bigger than it is. My goal is to set up the new board for success and to be ready to go off the hop, and this is one way that we can do that. So I would move that staff take the Duotang and the resources and take a look at it and make suggestions for a more robust or perhaps additions to that resource for new board members.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Against, if any? None, and that's carried. And I'll tell you, from my own personal perspective, it was an eye-opener for me because as much as all the knowledge I accumulated going into it, it was something new for me. I would have rather had a binder of some sort telling me what to do or what it was all about is a nice way of putting it. The one thing I did do, if you recall, and the commander will remember, I asked her if she would have some form of a presentation to the new board as to what the police do in a very general way without explaining policing. Because one of the conferences I went to me, was an eye-opener. So there is going to be information, I'm hoping I'm not putting you on the spot, but there is going to be some presentation for the new board by the commander or whatever she's putting together. You go ahead.
Thank you. That's a really good point. So we talked about print material, but for that orientation, we would want our detachment commander to speak. We would want our admin staff, whoever that might be, to speak. We also might want to invite our zone contact.
Yes.
And a representative from PGO at that same day, so the board can get all of the information at the same time.
Got that down there, Jody?
Through you, Chair Solers, I do have the formalized resolution that was previously voted on, but did you want another resolution?
No, I think she's just beefing this one up with information.
If we do want it amended, that will need to be procedurally voted on.
Or it could be just a different motion. But,
Yeah, exactly.
So I will move that the orientation day for the new board include invitations for the various speakers to attend from PGO and our detachment commander.
Posted zone 5 through you.
And the zone representative for zone 5. In this case, I think it's Zara, but it could be somebody else.
And you said administrative staff.
Yeah, I think it's important for admin staff to be there to talk about general meeting procedures and Robert's rules and all of that.
Very helpful. All in favor of that motion?
Second.
Seconded, sorry. Never heard. All in favor?
Just a question on it.
Go ahead, Jay.
No, that wouldn't regulate this being a meeting. Let's say all of us are successful in coming back and there's only one person that wants to go to orientation or 2 or 3. It wouldn't happen if we're looking at it to be a meeting, because you wouldn't have a majority at the meeting. So orientation would just be like a subcommittee that doesn't need a majority of the board added to do orientation. Or did you want it to happen at a meeting?
I think you're right, sorry if I may.
Go ahead,
I
please.
think it would depend on how many new faces we have on the board.
Yeah, so if it could happen, orientation will be blank and
Separate from the meeting.
separate from a meeting, so that there
That
will
could be
be.
determined in the first meeting.
Yeah,
Required quorum that way.
yeah, then you don't need a quorum. Like if there's only 3 people that show up for orientation, and the rest of us decide we want to come, I would hate for everybody to go, oh, we can't do it and walk away. We need it to happen. Yep. Just a suggestion. Carry on with your vote.
Thank you. All in favor? Opposed, if any? None opposed, carried. Go ahead, Scott.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. One of the other things that came out in the survey, and we've talked about this before, is the size and composition of the board.
Yeah.
When the determining factor, well, my understanding, this board was made the size it was based on input from all the member municipalities. I'm not sure all the member municipalities feel that this board size is appropriate, and so I guess my question is, what would the process be to examine the board composition size, and whether or not, we should be looking at, separating our vast geographic area in half, for example, and looking at a couple of, and I hate to even bring this up, Inspector, because I don't want to cause you more work, but I would look at it going from the number of boards that you did have to 2 boards would be a lot better than what you did have, so that would be my comment. But I do believe that this board is larger than it should be, and there should be a process to revisit that and put it back to the member municipalities to make that determination after they've seen this in working for the last year.
The
So
downside I see is twice as much work, twice as many meetings overall for the commander. Go ahead, Kathy.
I don't know if you want to respond.
well, the commander used to have to attend every member municipality, Mr. Chair, and we've cut that workload down significantly, so I'm only suggesting that, if we looked at 2, it would still be a reduction from what the inspector used to have to do.
Kathy?
I would maybe go one step further and suggest that maybe we could talk about not needing to have every member municipality here. I compare it so should it be a county level board, like the Board of Health, where not, for example, the Board of Health, not every member municipality sits on that board, right? It's decided at the county level. I agree. I think this is probably too large a board. And I, just speaking on my own, not on behalf of my council, but I don't think that Georgian Bluffs necessarily has to be here to feel represented by the other board members.
What are you suggesting?
Just throwing it out there for discussion.
Any comments on the screen? Any comments from admin?
Through you, Chair Solers, I do know our board size is enshrined in legislation, or it was, so to amend it will be a legislative process.
Okay.
We have talked to Hank about it, and he said, essentially, it's a process that you can undertake. It will be a time-consuming process, but a process that can be undertaken, but it is a legislative process.
So what does that mean, legislative pro? Do you mean it has to go through the province because that's part of the act that could we all be represented in theory if it were the county table?
So that is, through Chair Solar, something that we would have to come back. I know in initial discussions of board, that was a suggestion that it be a county, and they just didn't transpire that way. Georgian Bluffs did take
Perhaps
over.
that's something we could put on the next agenda and have Hank here.
Through you, Chair
Would that be
Solar.
of some value?
We can reach out and extend an invitation to the meeting for Hank. But I'm not sure if we will have answered.
Member
I can't say for sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just devil's advocacy for giggles. It's very much like Gray Sawmill. Gray Sawmill, what they're doing with the conservation authorities is they're going to this large amalgamation. We're not happy about it at all. For the same reason I almost see here, I appreciate the concern and I agree with it. The problem is that are you going to change the funding model? Because like Gray Sawmill, we're all a voice at the table because we get that voice because we're paying in to support this. With what they're doing with the conservation authorities, we're no longer going to have that voice. Yet we're still paying the dime, and yet where our voice is going to be limited. That's going to happen here as well. If all of a sudden you go to county level, is Grey Highlands going to be heard? Is Meaford going to be heard? It's going to be there's just another step in there to be heard in communication, because you've now got to have your county rep do it at county to get it to the OPP board. Whereas here, you literally have a direct voice in the process. So that's my only concern about that. Taking away this number is that you tend to lose that lower tier municipal actual voice at the table.
Yeah, I would want the municipal voices at the table because we're the ones that are paying the police budgets. We're the ones that, are accountable to the ratepayers when the budget is being, looked at here. From a county perspective, Wellington does it, but it's Wellington County OPP, which is different than how we have it up here with our individual contracts through the member municipalities. So that's why I think, each municipality needs to be here. My suggestion would be that, if it was 4 municipalities and 4 municipalities, that would be a better sized board than what we currently have.
Yeah, I agree with that more than going to the county level, whereas if you have 2 county representation through municipality, then you still have the voices. Yeah.
And initiating the process, I guess, Jody, you said it's legislative, but initiating the process, would that be a member municipality initiating the process, or would it be the board initiating it?
Through you, Chair Slurch, that is something I will definitely have to look into. My apologies, offhand, I'm not sure, but we just did have discussions previously with Hank regarding this, because it has been a continuing theme that the board size is sometimes an
just a wide suggestion, perhaps if our provincial representative may attend the next meeting, in other words, this matter be put over to our last meeting. Go ahead, Bob.
My take is that this was designed by the provinces based on detachment command and geography. Everyone here is all part of the detachment that Marla is responsible for. That's why it was composed this way. And then decisions were made about the additional representation from community representatives. Probably the 3 provincial appointees was mandated by the province. So that's why we are where we are. But my question, I guess, and Scott, for you and others here, like from the time we've been here and how things function, are the concerns that you feel that it's onerous, it's not giving everybody full opportunity to express their specific concerns from their municipality? In other words, if it ain't broke, why fix it? But what is broken? What is wrong with what we're doing here? Why is it that it's not working in your mind from your perspective as the mayor of one of the municipalities?
Go ahead. So if I can respond, my perspective, from a municipal standpoint was when we had our own police services board, we could really fine tune and ask questions in regards to our own municipality. That's been lost through this larger process. Having those meetings, and they were only once every 3 months, and quarterly we had those meetings, but it did give us an opportunity to bring forth concerns from members of the public, specific concerns about what was going on in your own municipality. That's been lost in this process. I get the larger, we're here to much larger sense.
So, Mr.
than what
Chair.
we were. So that's the primary reason, being able to focus more in not just on my municipality, but the southern part, for example, of the detachment would make more sense than the broad detachment right now.
Mr. Chair, in other words, you're saying that if it was only half as many municipalities, you still wouldn't have that exclusivity that you used to have, but it would be easier to communicate and get your own specific municipalities' concerns across on the discussion table. If there were 4 municipalities represented as opposed to 8, you feel that that would make that big difference to justify this change?
My municipal boundaries, is Meaford and Grey Highland. So what happens, if our 4 municipalities wanted, or 3 municipalities wanted to buy a weight scale, because, we've got people in the spring that are abusing our roads, our municipalities could buy that as a resource for the OPP. That may not be an issue in another part of the county. So there's just some things that you can do when you're a little bit more nimble and focused in on a smaller geographic area in my mind.
Go ahead, Kath.
All good points. I worry that having 2 boards, that will mean twice the admin costs, I'm assuming. It will also mean, I'm not meaning to speak for Marla, but now we have 2 local action plans. We have 2 processes for evaluating our detachment commander. We may have 2 sets of procedures and policies. To me,
And they conflict.
it will mean more work in collaborating between the 2 to make sure it's consistent, but it seems to me that could be a bit of a time, a time and effort issue for staff as well as the detachment commander.
Go ahead, Jay.
My question, and I'm kind of in the middle here. I can work either way, but my question is to Mara. Do you mind my phone calls of my specific problems in South Bruce Peninsula? And if you don't mind those, you better answer the right way. But if you don't mind those, like our park, we've had some vandalism in the park down Blue Water Park. I make Marla aware of it, or one of the officers at the time, and things seem to happen like quicker. I don't wait till the board meeting, and as long as that is allowed and isn't minded, and I don't abuse that, that pleasure to be able to do that, I think I can voice my individual or my town's needs a lot better by a phone call tomorrow. Now, and then I think if the detachment commander or whoever it is that I'm talking to feels that it's something that should be brought up at the board, it's a bigger issue. It's not just an issue in Blue Water Park, it's an issue in every park. And she would bring it in her presentation that this is what we're doing and we're doing it, that it wasn't. So I think as long as that's allowed, I'm good. I'm okay with the board being this size. Because then I still feel that I'm getting my individual responses or requests of my municipality and we're being heard. Squeaky wheel. But it's not, I don't abuse it. It's if it is a concern, I'll phone and we'll take care. So I'm okay with the board retaining the way it is, because this board is still early in its infancy, still trying to understand what we're supposed to be doing, and it's coming. It's starting to come. I wouldn't want to throw a wrench into it and split us in 2 right now, because we've had a lot of good thoughts at this table with who all's been here. Maybe in the future it needs to be split, but I think I would like to see it stay like this.
I'd like to hear from Marla. Her thoughts.
Well, I agree with what Member Kirkland has said there, or Mayor Kirkland. I'm happy to take phone calls or emails from any of the municipalities or the members. The members, I've spoken with many municipalities. Different municipalities handle things differently. Some send me emails, some have a staff member reach out, some it's a CAO, sometimes it's a mayor. But I'm happy to deal with those issues when they're coming forward at the time. That's what I'm here for, and I have no issues with that. Sometimes it's someone's getting a lot of speeding issues, and we'll tell those people to call the issues in. Like sometimes we'll get complaints from a municipal member that's getting complaints from the public, and we tell them, call those things into the police at the time, but for persistent issues, absolutely.
Go ahead. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So to your point, Scott, and I agree with you, I think you're right. What's lost is a little bit is that one-on-one kind of municipality to OPP relationship. So I'm just not, again, everything's not to put more work on you, Marla, or the detachment or the OPP in general, but it's almost like a drill down scenario, like on a quarterly basis. Instead of, I agree with you as well, Kathy, that if splitting, it's going to definitely be more costly, no matter what you do. And it's also going to be inherently difficult for consistency in terms of two boards trying to do the same thing with the same detachment. But is there a possibility of some, like, for example, a member from the detachment coming to each council on a quarterly basis or a semi-annual basis to literally meet with each council? Because again, I'm just here representing, and I'm trying to bring back everything from my council. But so what I asked about me for this morning could have easily been done with you addressing our council and us having an opportunity to ask you about a series of things we might be concerned about on a individual basis. That's a drill down from this. But I don't know whether that's possible. I don't know what your timing looks like, what that kind of does legislatively oversight, whether they would be happy with that being kind of thrust upon the OPP as another kind of task that has to be fit into their schedule. So I just don't know what you feel like about you visiting individual councils regular basis to have these conversations.
You can use me as an example if you want, but we had the request for you to come to our council and.
Yeah, so that was like a one-off. South Bruce Peninsula asked for billing information, so I had our billing unit come and provide presentation to them. I'm happy to go to councils on the one-offs or annually, but I think if I commit to quarterly for 9 municipalities, that's going to be a lot.
Yeah.
So I think that's the purpose of the board, the joint board, was so that everyone could come together. I give you my reports, and then it's up to the municipal reps to then share with their councils. That was the idea of the detachment board. So I just don't think I could commit to attending nine municipalities quarterly. That's 36 meetings each quarter. So I don't think that's doable. But again, those one-offs where there's a specific reason they want me there, I'm happy to entertain those. And present annually is one of the things that I've offered in the past, to present the annual report to the councils if they want more than what you're bringing back. Sometimes it is nice to have it in person, but I don't think I could commit to quarterly.
Just expecting you to clone yourself.
Go
ahead. Mr. Chair, as someone pointed out earlier, each of the municipal members pay big bucks for OPP policing. Strikes me, and I'm not one of you that had to negotiate those contracts or the terms and conditions of it, but it strikes me that when you're paying that money, when you sit down to negotiate your contracts, you can ask for anything you want, and either you negotiate or you don't get it. And if you want one of the representatives of the local detachment to come every quarter, and that's in the contract, I don't know if that's even possible. If it's valid and justified, or every 6 months or once a year or whatever, then you're entitled to it because you as a municipality are the customer, right? You've chosen to negotiate your contract, and any terms and conditions in that contract have to be honored by the OPP. So that shouldn't have anything to do specifically with the board. But that's, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm missing something here, but like, you're the customer.
Yeah, there's a company.
Jump in.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So there are no contracts anymore. It is on a per household basis. There is a base fee that is province-wide for each household. And then the variable amount is the calls for service, the reactive calls for service that get billed. So there are no contracts per se with respect to each individual municipality. It's a provincial costing model.
Fair enough, but having said that, municipalities don't have to use OPP. they can say, we don't like what we get with the OPP, as some communities have done and chosen to have municipal police forces. Now, that's a big decision, obviously, involves a lot of money, but whether there's a contract or not, surely there's an opportunity to have dialogue about what policing is provided when you make the decision to stay with OPP or to go with the OPP. But I mean,
I think that's probably a discussion for a different day and for each municipality. Contracts are more relevant when it's a municipal police force. We really have very little input into pricing, and we can tailor the service to meet our needs as a board, but and we do that through identifying the local priorities and the annual action plan. But beyond that, there's really very little. So I just as soon not get into discussions about municipal policing versus OPP at this stage.
Is there any further, I'm sorry, go ahead, Jim.
Just all I was meaning when I brought up is individually, I think the service is still there. So if that's all I was trying to stress when I had an individual problem of having a municipality, I think it gets taken care of adequately, in my opinion, on the present, like the way this complicated the mission of this board, the way we are. I think we're fine. If we want to refine it in the future, but I think so far I've had my questions answered and our whatever we need, and which was contracts, and we had to please come in and explain things, the new system and all that stuff. So I'm good with knowing that we're covered when I have an individual problem.
is the frequency of meetings part of the issue too, Scott, that your time is spent here? Like when you talk to many of the boards, very few of them have monthly meetings. I would say most of them would maybe meet 3 or 4 times a year. Is that an issue? Is that what part of it is? Or is the more meetings better because we can discuss things more? I mean, that's what it comes down to, is opportunity to bring your concerns and your ideas forward.
Well, if the question is specific, my opinion is we don't need to meet as often as we do. Quarterly, I think would look after it. I'm concerned about how the budget has increased for every member municipality from what we were paying in the past. Not seeing any more value from the money that we're spending as municipalities for police services. That's some of my general thoughts on it.
The question is, what do you want to do?
Well, I asked the question earlier, what's the process? So I look forward to knowing what the process is, and a future board can make that determination.
I would agree with that. And I think we will put this matter over to the September meeting, and I think that's all included in the invitation that you're going to make, Jody.
Through your Chair Solis, you will need to make another resolution, as that previous one was voted on then, or an amendment or something
Let's do it that way.
regarding what you're looking for.
You want to define it, Scott?
What was the previous motion then?
Through your Chair Solis, it was regarding board orientation, that the board direct administrative staff to invite representatives from PGO, the detachment commander, and Zone 5 to participate in orientation of the new board. But that has, yes, that was the previous one. But it had nothing to do with September.
What number?
No.
So I would move that the board examine the mechanisms for possibly reducing the size of the current board. Just
Or the amount of meetings.
or the number of meetings, other opportunities to reduce the overall budget that we are currently paying, and we'll speak to that a little bit more later in this report, but there's a few things to.
You want to try to word that one out there, Jody?
Yeah, good luck.
Well, let her get it on. Yeah. I'd like to hear it. Ready there, Julie?
No, please, Chair.
She's typing, somebody asked, how do you manage running a meeting with 16 board members? Can't you shorten the time down, which is from these meetings, and very difficult where you've got 16 opinions and 16 voices.
You can double that for me. I talk too much.
I'm not going down that road. I thought that was Paul. He's not on the screen anymore. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's really not all that. It's apples to oranges when we start comparing our board to other boards that only have a much fewer municipal representatives. It does make for perhaps more meetings and longer meetings. I might be speaking out of turn, but I think the whole goal was to move towards quarterly meetings, but with the idea.
That is a goal.
With the idea that it's not so easy to do in the early days when we're all still getting procedurally and policy-wise our ducks in a row.
You know, just even while Jody's preparing that to compare things, I go to all of these discussion groups, which I know Carol's always on the same ones and some of the other members are. They're wonderful. You're learning what other boards do and you're hearing other boards' opinions, whether they're municipal or whether it's OPP. And then at the same time, I've talked to individual members here, one-on-one, that are not in this same venue. I've met with them separately at places, restaurants, Starbucks, had FaceTime calls, etc. So it's difficult sharing in many respects because you don't see all of the things that are going on. When you've got a small board, and one of the municipalities was indicating they've had the same board members for 19 years. I couldn't imagine that. And it just doesn't change. Well, a lot of it becomes social and they can get a lot of their matters done in a small environment. This is a very different environment. You know, somebody asked me to list out all of the municipalities. I'm thinking, because I've driven through them all. So it takes a while. And then you've got 60, like I say, 16 opinions.
Did you follow the speed limit when you're driving through the mall?
I was in Red Bay 2 days ago because we dropped the dog off. I'm sorry?
Plead the fifth on that.
Plead the fifth, exactly. I drove through Red Bay. When I saw that 40-kilometer sign, I heard my wife. Slow it down. Okay, go ahead.
That the board directs staff to review potential options for reducing board operating costs, including reducing meeting frequency and exploring the process and requirements associated with potential reduction of board size.
It's your motion.
But she sounded great.
Nicole?
Member Mackey, can we hold the motion until we have the next discussion? Because I think there's going to be a few things that you want to tack onto it.
It's the remuneration.
Yeah.
Discussion.
Yeah, we can defer this till after the next discussion.
Okay,
Please.
where are we going on the next discussion?
That's
Haven't
you.
got there yet.
For the record, I'll second the motion just so we can move ahead with the discussion when that comes along.
Okay, you've got that. So are we moving this along to the board remuneration review?
Yep.
Okay, and then we'll come back to that when you remind me, Jody.
You Chair Solar.
Okay.
Yes. Board remuneration review. This report was prepared in response to the board's direction in March 2026 to review remuneration rates across Grey and Bruce County, and compare them with information available from PGO, with the goal of determining whether amendments to the board's remuneration policy should be considered. Staff consulted Police Governance Ontario, municipalities represented on the Grey Bruce OPP Detachment Board, as well as the South Bruce OPP Detachment Board, which is the only other OPP Detachment Board in Grey Bruce. The review found there is no standardized approach to board remuneration costs across Ontario. Compensation models vary significantly, ranging from no remuneration at all to annual honorariums, flat per meeting rates, and half-day or full-day per diem structures. A comparison of local municipalities also showed considerable variation in remuneration practices, making it difficult to establish a meaningful average. The Grey Bruce OPP Detachment Board currently is amongst the highest full-day remuneration rates among the local comparators reviewed. Staff also identified a potential gap in the current policy as it does not include an hourly remuneration rate for shorter professional development activities. This would be such as the monthly 1-hour police governance Ontario webinars, which we do have a few members attending. So they would be remunerated at the half day by default. To assist the board in determining next steps, the report presents 4 options. These include maintaining the current remuneration policy, reducing remuneration to reflect the municipal average, deferring any policy changes until the next board, and additional research can be conducted, or aligning with the South Bruce OPP detachment model, which is quarterly meetings and a flat rate. And again, that is the only other OPP detachment board in Grey Bruce. It is comprised of let me just find it here, my apologies. Erin Eldersley, Municipality of Brockton, Township of Huron Kinloss, Municipality of Kincardine, Municipality of South Bruce, and South Bruce, and that makes up the South Bruce OPP board, just in case anyone wasn't aware of that composition. So overall, staff concluded that despite the variation in remuneration practices across the province, the board's current framework does remain generally consistent with the provincial trends. But there is no established provincial standard. So this report is just for information and does seek whether any amendments are to be brought forward. Since writing the report, and my apologies, this wasn't included, we did consult more with OREG 13524, and it does state that if remuneration is to be changed or amended, it will have to go back to councils for unanimous approval. And that's again in OREG 13524. It's mostly regarding the provincial, but they are to be paid the same, so it would have to go back to municipalities.
So just to get it on the record, the recommendation is that the Grey Bruce OPP Detachment Board receive the report, which is what we've got in front of us, for review and information, provide direction on options contained in the report. Is there a mover? Member Colburn moves it, and a seconder. Member Martin seconds it. We're now up to the discussion point. So, questions? Go ahead.
Just before I forget, Jody, you made, through you, Chair, to staff, you made reference to an OREG that you said mainly applies to the provincial appointees. So I just want to be clear I'm understanding you. If the board decides to change the per diem for its members.
Did you mean the community appointees or?
Well, I'll give Jody a chance to go over that again. It was just real quick and I'm not sure I understood it. So are you saying that we absolutely have to go back to the member municipalities if we were to change the per diem? Because that didn't read that way to me.
Through you, Chair Solers, yeah, it wasn't in the report, apologies, because we were just looking at the OREGs. There's extensive legislation, so we were just kind of re-looking at them. And OREG 13524, I'll just read it. So section 7.1, so the amount of remuneration to be paid to a member of an OPP detachment board appointed by the minister, it's referring to provincial appointees, shall be determined by the unanimous agreement of the municipalities of the detachment. And then there is another section that says they basically have to be remunerated at the same rate as the community. So it would essentially be our remuneration rate does have to go back to the municipalities for approval, for unanimous approval. If there isn't one, if the municipalities are unable to reach a unanimous agreement for the purposes of section 1, which I just read, then the ministers shall determine their remuneration to be paid to the board members. And again, OREG 13524, if anyone wants to personally look it up.
Nicole?
You're satisfied on that? So has our remuneration policy been approved? No, okay.
Not through you, Chair Switch, not to my understanding. That was something that
So we do have an opportunity to change it before I do. Okay, so to your point then. Okay, so we can lower or increase whatever the policy is right now because it has not been set. Okay, thank you.
That's a good catch.
So to, Mackey, I was like, Mayor Mackey, yeah, Mr. Mayor, what is the last name? I'm hoping that through the discussion, your motion will include, this is the opportunity, of course, to include reduction of meetings to a quarterly, because that was one of the recommendations, or one of the options, sorry, that was one of the options. So I'm hoping that that will show up in the motion. And I don't know where you're gonna land on remuneration.
Let's go.
Well, I'll tell the member where I land on remuneration. Our remuneration is set on Georgian Bluff's remuneration, which is the highest of any member municipality sitting at this table. I don't believe it should be set based on, just because they're doing the administration, that it should be set based on their remuneration policy. I appreciate all the other remunerations from the member municipalities, and in particular, what they're paying in St. Bruce, which is $250. You know, even if we went to $250, you know, basically $50 less per meeting times 19 people, that's a significant reduction in the budgetary, you know, issues that we have.
You get paid to be here?
Eh?
I don't.
Yeah, I'm paying, the rate's there, $227. So I think we need to look at our remuneration. I think it needs to be, you know, I would say an average of the member municipalities that are sitting here. That would be a fair way of doing it. Then automatically, you know, we could justify to our councils when it comes back. The provincial appointees then would get an average of what the sitting member municipalities would be. I think that's completely fair and defendable. So that would be my suggestion.
That's most justifiable. Go ahead, Cal.
Just to add to that, well, first of all, I see this as a completely separate motion than the one before that's asking staff to bring back information. I think we have the information in front of us. We just need to make a decision. Georgian Bluffs has undergone their most recent remuneration policy, and ours is changing as well. So unfortunately, we didn't get rid of it entirely. But it is, so we're using what will be old data if we're going by Georgian Bluffs once the next term of council starts. I am also in favor.
Sorry, go ahead.
Keep going?
Yeah, please.
I'm also in favor of reducing the remuneration at this board. I think it's excessive. I support Scott's thinking.
Just a question. Question was, as I understand it, all of the municipal members, you're not compensated by the board, you're compensated directly by your own municipality. So are the community members, they're compensated by the board as well as the three of us that are provincial appointees? That's who we're talking.
Yes.
7 people, right?
Yeah.
I'm okay with an average of whoever has, we have a different policy, but whatever the average is throughout.
It's a good suggestion. It's justifiable. It's a nice way of putting it.
Totally justified.
Yep, absolutely. You're not going to get you're going to get blowback no matter what.
Yep.
But it's justified at this point.
You will from us, because we get no remuneration for board committee, so.
No, but I think what the suggestion is that the average of them, to try to come up with a figure.
Yeah.
There is municipalities that still have the remuneration.
Yes.
It's not for us, it's for the provincial and the
Correct.
People, the 7 people, to come up with an average of what the municipalities that do have that. That's the only way we're going to be able to find an average.
Yeah, Nicole?
But for you, Mr. Chair, I do think that if Meaford doesn't have a per diem, that should factor in. And that will lower the per diem.
That will lower the effort.
Right, which I think is an important point. Like, I
Just
agree with that.
on that though, the reason we don't have a per diem is because maybe I get paid more yearly,
That,
right?
Yeah.
So we did a big study and come back to, instead of an accounting thing that takes up staff time to figure it out, we get $50 more a year to go to all the meetings. So that's where that comes from. So I think we can't use Meaford or South Bruce Peninsula's policy, only the ones that do have a per diem.
Go ahead, Scott.
Jay's absolutely right. There's a lot of variables. Some municipalities just go on salary, so then you're expected to attend X number of meetings, you put up your hand and the number of committees you want to sit on, and you do it that way, as opposed to others that, pay a per diem for every meeting you go to. Just
We're talking about
to simplify this, we have the police services board to our neighbors in South Bruce, which is $250. If I would move that we move our per diem rate to $250. It's gonna be very close to what the average would be anyways, if that's gonna simplify things. Certainly taking the average would be more defendable from all the member municipalities, because then it's right there.
Now, when you say 250, is that 250 whether it's half day or full day?
I'm just going by the report, they $250 per meeting. I'm not sure.
Because here we've got it defined, half day and full day. If you go to from 1 minute past, I had this discussion with a couple of board members. Did the meeting end at 12:30 or 12:31? What do I put my time in at? Because it made a difference whether it's 153 or 300. Go ahead.
I think the idea is to simplify it for admin staff, for us as well. And if it's a flat rate, that might motivate us to get through our meetings a little faster. Whereas if we're being paid half, again, the half day, the hourly rate, the full day, that's all coming from Georgian Bluffs, and that's changing.
Yeah, I know.
So I like to simplify it.
I do too.
I'm not sure based on typically our meetings should be a half day. They shouldn't be any more than a half day, which, is at 127. So I take back the 250 because that would be excessive for a half day meeting. So if we just went back to averaging what our rates are for both half day and for full day, then at least it's fair for every municipality.
I throw in a little monkey wrench into the whole thing. Does that apply to the chair? And the reason I say that, I saw that in some of these, the chair was paid at a different rate, different flat rate. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just was gonna ask you, do you get paid anything more for being the chair? Like, for example, when you meet with staff?
Nope.
Do you put in for those meetings?
Nope, I
Just
put in for, what I put in for is no different than what Bob puts in for, what Nicole puts in for. Except the only other meeting that I attend, that I'm obligated to attend, is the agenda meeting, for which I put in a half day. Or in one case, it was, the onus was put on me to try to help one of the members come to the table to get through the testing. So I put in a half a day. But other than that, any other discussions I've had as chair with members in confidence, one-on-one, about board meetings, you've never seen it and you're not even aware I've done it. And this is why I say I don't know how the other chairs are operating, but I get a fair volume of emails and discussions, one-on-one. You'll never see it, never know it. I think that's just expected of the chair, honestly. Go ahead. So that should be the
In
same
my
way. That's
municipal
my point.
experience, that is expected of the chair, of all the chairs.
Well, as the mayor too.
Well, the mayors are compensated more for that.
Yeah.
But chairs that, I know when Rob was chair of the Conservation Authority, there's no added, you put your name forward, there is expectations when you put your name forward.
Right.
We all have chaired different committees at county and locally, and that's just, if you take on the role, that's expected.
Scott, I agree with you, and all I'm saying here is it should be clarified. It should be the same rate. If you want that position as chair, if you've chosen to do it as I did and then re-elected as chair, I saw right away what the expectations were after that, And if I was coming back and running as chair, I know what the expectations are. You're gonna throw in a lot of extra time, and if you do, and if you don't wanna do it, don't run for chair. It's as simple as that. Go ahead, Kathy.
I don't want to take us down a different path, but since we're discussing this, it's a question through you, Chair, to Jody. Does our procedure bylaw outline what the chair gets paid over and above the meeting per diem? Because if it doesn't, I think it ought to. So that half-day meeting agenda prep meeting at the half-day rate ought to be included in there so that anyone wanting to be chair understands what the compensation for that is.
You, Chair Solar. So the only place that I believe is the remuneration policy, because that was developed, may have been at the same time, but it was a little bit after. But yeah, the only place that it speaks to is the remuneration policy, and the agenda reviews are about an hour. So we did identify that gap in that it is remunerated at a half-day rate because we don't have an hourly remuneration. So the same with the PGO attendance. Those are remunerated at half-day rates, though they are an hour, because we don't have an hour and a half. So because we don't have an hourly remuneration, right? So that was identified as a gap, which may potentially want to be addressed, that there could be an hourly or a professional development remuneration, because that is, I don't want to use the term over remunerated for, but remunerated for at the half-day rate. But no, I believe the only place that remuneration is addressed is in the GB OPP policy for board remuneration. To my knowledge.
So we don't get into a full day per diem today, Mr. Chair. I will move that per diems be set at an average of the member municipality per diems that have been provided to us in the report.
And that includes the chair, and I say that because the next chair could be a provincial appointee, the next chair could be a community appointee, or a mayor.
Second motion.
Okay, that motion is seconded by Member Coburn. We'll wait till he comes back. Go ahead.
I just wanted to see if it was the intention of the board that motion was option 2, reduce remuneration to municipal average. That does account for Meaford and South Bruce Peninsula's non-remuneration, but that staff be directed to prepare amendments to GB OPP policy 4, board remuneration policy, to reduce board remuneration to reflect the average remuneration identified through the municipal comparison, establish a full day per diem of $215.81 and a half day per diem of $123.31 for community and provincial appointees, and that the proposed half-day rate of $123.31 be calculated using the board's existing definition of a half-day meeting, which was up to 4 hours, by dividing the proposed full-day rate of $215.81. And there is also, after that recommendation in the report, an hourly, should you wish to break it down even further.
Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And yeah, I was thinking that I agree with you, Scott, on on doing the average. But I also think there is value of looking at, maybe even if it's just for the chair, for an hourly rate, because we've all attended agenda meetings. They don't tend to be half-day meetings, and that does seem to be overcompensatory. So I'm just wondering whether we should have just an aside on an hourly rate for that.
Go ahead.
Jody, when she read it option 2, it speaks to everything that I think we need to include as the board.
I might add to that, this commences for the next board, January the 1st, 2027. Make it simple that
Through
way.
you, Chair Solers, due to OREG, now I just have to go back to my report, OREG 13524, whatever is decided here would be a recommendation to all participating municipalities, in which they would unanimously have to agree to the board's recommendation. So the commencement of time, I wouldn't necessarily include here, just because it would fall outside of, I guess we could propose it for 2027, but it would have to be unanimously agreed on by the
The
municipality.
likelihood is it's going to be 2027 is what you're saying.
That would be at the participating municipalities, because unanimous approval would need to.
Yeah, I hear you.
But I mean, we can put that forward as a recommendation of this board. The one thing that the motion doesn't include is the hourly rate of $30.83. So do we want that just to apply to the agenda prep meetings with the chair, or does that apply to, like, I have attended, I think, 1 or 2 of the online forums. They often just run an hour. It seems wrong to me that I would be paid a half-day rate for an hour's attendance. So I think rather than this have to come back again next term, I would rather, have a more blanket statement about hourly rates.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I've attended all of them, and there was only one that I can think of went for an hour. And the ones I've attended go for the full hour and a half. In fact, a few times, and I think Carol was on one with me, we kept going. Once the other municipalities got off, in a few cases, Carol and I stayed on with Janine. I stay on with her normally longer.
So then we need to define half day. Is it 2 hours to 4 hours? No, not just 4 hours, because that could be 10 minutes. Do you see what I mean? It can't be up to 4 hours for a half day rate if we want to be fiscally responsible. So anything under 2 hours is hourly rate. I'm just throwing that out there because the way it reads now is if you attend something for 15 minutes, you get paid the half day rate.
Yeah.
That's not right.
Exactly.
I don't think that's happened that I can think of.
But I mean, we have
It's not about you.
Right, it's setting a precedent right across the board. It's not right.
Yeah.
Any comments, Jody?
Through you, Chair Smith, I'd have to check with the treasurer, but I do believe it has happened on numerous events regarding the PGO seminar,
I see.
webinars.
Yeah.
And then I can't speak to, but it would be the treasurer, but I know for the PGO seminars, they have to be submitted at a half day rate because we don't have an hourly.
That's correct.
They have.
We've gone around the table 15 times, and I don't know I think we're close, and staff have heard what the board wants, I think. Can we ask for a report to the next meeting and a definition of everything that we can at least?
I think that's wiser.
That way we might forget something here right now. Staff could bring a report back saying, here's what we heard the board wants, here's what it is. And then we could at least, because there is the hourly thing, there is the half-day thing. Are we forcing Jody to come up with wording that we might be changing in the future if we don't let her think?
Whatever we're going to is going to be incumbent upon the next board or.
Right.
But
we
you
can
take
pass
back
it
your
next
council.
meeting. Because it's gonna have to go to all the councils too.
Yes.
So if we screw it up now, it's gonna be coming back to us. So all I'm suggesting is, I agree with Councillor Mackey and everybody here, but we should get something back from staff.
Go ahead.
Chair Solar. I just want to clarify the report because this report does break down the 4 options we could identify. I don't know what options to identify beyond the report. So if you can provide me clarity in this resolution, happy to accommodate it.
I think you've already done the work, as you've said, Jody. I don't see putting it back onto staff's plate to bring another one forward. We are looking at option 2. And the only thing that we would want added to that is a definition of the hourly rate and the rate per hour.
Yeah.
I think that's all we need to do.
So we'll put that over to the next meeting.
Well, that's not what I'm saying.
No, she's saying we can
approve it today. It's in the report, so.
Let's get it done.
But the only thing, just adding like Kathy said, the hourly, making sure we have an hourly rate.
And defining what that is,
Suggestion?
whether it's less than 2 hours or.
Well, it's in here, $30.83 is the rate.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Scott, you likely have more experience than I in this. Would that be for any meetings under 2 hours or 2 hours or less? Or what is the definition of hourly rate? Or maybe others?
Because otherwise it approaches into half day.
Anything over an hour, your hourly rate, if you, for an hour and 15 minutes, you get 2 hours.
But up to
Up
and
to 2
including, up to and including 2? Or up to 2, and then the half-day rate is 2 hours to 4 hours.
If you got an hourly rate, it should go up.
So how does the math work on that then? You get 120 some for a half a day, which is what, 3 hours or 4 hours, and then $30 an hour. So is that how we interpret that? Like 4 hours is a half day?
That's what's,
Like
that's
our
what
meetings
staff.
now start at 9 till 12, that's 3 hours, right? And we get 120 some dollars for that. But if you were 1 hour, 2 hours, you get $60, but if you go an extra hour, you double your money.
Or anything over that, it doesn't have to be
I'm
an
just
extra
asking
hour.
about the math, because if you try to,
She's done the math for
It
us.
does
It's all
stipulate
there.
up to 4 hours here.
yeah, but we're basically
But it's
here for
for-
3 hours most times for 120 some dollars.
Correct.
But then you don't make it, you'd go down to 3 hours.
Jody, jump in.
So it's up to 4.
Yeah, I was just gonna provide a little bit of clarity if you wanted. So yeah, basically the math is just, we broke it down as hourly. So it would be 30.83 times 3 for a 3-hour meeting. And then the half day rate, which is 4 hours, is just 30.83 times 4, 123.31. And then the full day rate is simply 30.83 times 7, which is a standard business
You want to
day.
read that back?
Does that clarify? I'm not sure.
No, not really, because what if your if your meeting is 4 hours and 1 minute, that's full day rate. What is the definition of a half day? Is it 2 to 4 hours?
You got it.
Is it 3 to 4 hours? We just need to stipulate that, right? We don't have a definition for when we would use the hourly rate. And I also have to excuse myself for a moment.
We want to just take a brief recess, the chair is gone too. So he needs to go, he passed the gavel to me officially or unofficially.
So just for everybody's information, I do not bill for these webinars, ever.
Through you, Vice Chair.
You should get a tax receipt for that.
Through Vice Chair Nickel.
It's a donation.
We're just officially taking a recess. We just want to make sure for the mics and everything.
Okay.
Because the
So
chair
the
is
meeting's still active.
up to you. Are you saying a
Are you
recess?
calling recess?
I'll call a recess, thank you. Brief recess.
We're in this place. We've got a forum sitting here, we've got two on the screen. We've got a forum sitting here, we can keep going. Okay, where did we leave off? We had a few motions on the table, did we not, Jody?
Just one. Sorry. Through you, Chair Fuller. So the last was, I don't believe it's technically been moved or seconded yet, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it was the option 2 from my report. And we were just discussing how to define, to add the hourly rate of 3083 and to just how to define. I can reread the motion if you'd like in its entirety, although I don't have a definition beyond the 4 hours, but I can read it as is if you.
I would like you to read anything that's still outstanding, if we're missing any seconders and or, because I remember there was one floating around from before. And we have to vote on both of those motions, so if you would just read them out so we know.
Right now we only have the one on the floor because the other one procedurally was withdrawn and was to be brought back. You can only have one on the floor.
Go ahead.
So I don't have a mover or seconder for this because it's just option 2 from my report, but should the board wish to move it, it reads as follows. That staff be directed to prepare amendments to GB OPP Policy 4, Board Remuneration Policy, to reduce board remuneration to reflect the average remuneration identified through the municipal comparison, establishing a full day per diem rate of $215.81 and a half day per diem rate of $123.31 for community and provincial appointees, and that the proposed half-day rate of $123.31 be calculated using the board's existing definition of a half-day meeting up to 4 hours by dividing the proposed full-day rate of $215.81 by 7, essentially. Of $215.81, and that the board recommend an hourly rate of $30.83 for approved professional development.
Okay. Is there a mover?
For discussion purposes, yeah.
Okay, for discussion, Member Coburn, seconder, Member Mackey, in favor?
No.
Oh, sorry, discussion. Sorry, I apologize. Go ahead.
Through you to Jody, I'm failing to understand why we would need the second paragraph. That's how we calculate it. So I am in favor of the first paragraph, but we do need to define in adding the 3083 hourly rate. And within that paragraph, defining that a full day definition is 4 hours or more. A half day is 2 hours up to 4 hours. And anything under 2 hours would be calculated at the hourly rate. That would be my proposal.
I agree with that proposal, that we define the hourly rate to 2 hours and less.
Got that? Anybody disagree with that? Wait for Jody to make sure we've got it nailed down.
Chair Solers, did you want me to reread that?
Yeah.
That staff be directed to prepare amendments to GB OPP Policy 4, Board Remuneration Policy, to reduce board remuneration to reflect the average remuneration identified through the municipal comparison, establishing a full day per diem of $215.81, 4 hours or more, and a half day per diem of $123.31, 2 hours to 4 hours for community and provincial appointees, and that the board recommend an hourly rate of $30.83 under 2 hours for approved professional development. Oh, and I should also, my apologies, I should also clarify this was written before the OREG, so we may have to redo wording that staff direct to prepare amendments, more that the board recommend recommend this, because it does have to be circulated to participating municipalities. So that wording may.
So do we need anything additionally to direct staff to forward that recommendation to the individual municipalities for their approval?
And onward to meet the OREGs.
Through you, Chair Solich, member, Paul McQueen has had his hand up for a while there, while I'm doing this.
Anyone on the screen have any comments or questions?
Sure do.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Paul McQueen. If you look at your comparables, comparisons, only one municipality has an hourly rate. I won't be supporting the hourly rate, because if somebody's going to dedicate their morning or afternoon to a meeting and then it ends up being, if those people are working people, they're taking a half a day off work to show up to our meeting. I don't think it's right that you're not going to at least pay them a half a day. There's preparation time, there's everything else. And on your list of all your comparables, there's only one that had an hourly rate. Years back, we used to have an hourly rate, and we removed it. Even with the county of Gray, it's either a half day or full day. And I will not be supporting an hourly rate.
Thank you, Chair Solich. Just further to that, and I believe Jody read this earlier, that that hourly rate only applies to education. Wasn't that correct, Jody? And that the meeting rates are still at the half day and full day rate? So that's just if you attend an online forum and you're only attending for an hour and 15 minutes, that's when the hourly rate would apply.
Okay, that's fair. That's defined. You okay with that, Paul?
I understand. Yeah.
When you say only educational, you talked about the agenda meeting as well, which is not educational.
The agenda meeting is not educational.
Right, that's what I'm saying. We probably need that caveat as well, because that needs to be defined to a degree as well. Again, agenda meetings are normally an hour or less, so that should be an hourly rate as well.
I would agree with that.
Agenda setting means.
Absolutely, that's fair.
Sorry, Jody.
Just wait for Jody to clarify that one. Well,
Mr. Chair, with respect to this motion as it's voted on, should some of us be declaring a pecuniary interest?
well, if it goes over to the next board. Yes, sir?
The decision is made by the member municipalities, by the councils.
Yeah, that we're supporting or not supporting something that affects us personally, financially, which is the reason for my question.
All I can tell you is that councils have to do that on a regular basis when they look at their remunerations.
And they don't declare a pecuniary, because it applies to everybody.
There's an exemption under the guest black, whether that applies to a board, I can't say for 100%.
Okay, well, it's just a question. If it was appropriate to do it, I would have.
I don't think you need either.
Okay.
You're recommending that, so you should be fine.
Yeah. Well, but I could vote against that too. Then I would be showing my pecuniary interest in not wanting to have it lowered, wouldn't I?
Plus, you know what? Hold that thought.
That was just a question.
Trying to shorten the time down too. Okay, Jody, you got it?
I think so. Through you, Chair Solich, that staff be directed to prepare amendments to GB OPP Policy 4, Board Remuneration Policy, to reduce board remuneration to reflect the average remuneration identified through the municipal comparison, establishing a full day per diem of $215.81, 4 hours or more, and a half day per diem of $123.31, 2 hours to 4 hours for community and provincial appointees, and that an hourly rate of $30.83 under 2 hours be established for professional development and agenda meetings for the chair of the board, and that staff be directed to forward this recommendation and policy amendments to the participating municipalities for unanimous agreement and implementation.
We have a mover on that one?
And we got
Everybody have
second,
that?
yeah.
In favor? Opposed, if any? Opposed, Paul? You're opposed?
Yeah.
We have member McQueen opposed. Still carries. Okay, did we clear up the one before it? Is there any outstanding motions that have not been voted on?
Through you, Chair Solar.
Yeah, there was one.
With respect to splitting of the pool.
Yep.
Through you, Chair Solar. I also don't have the amendment, just to receive this report for information as well, which was on the floor, moved and seconded, but never voted on. I don't know if we want to do that at the end
We can do that now.
or after the deferred motion, whatever is your preference. Probably after the deferred motion, I
That's
suppose.
okay. Do we have that motion in front of us?
Yes. The one from previous, that the board directs staff to review potential options for reducing board operating costs, including reducing meeting frequency and exploring the process and requirements associated with a potential reduction in board size.
Now, there was a mover on that one? And a seconder, so all in favor?
Are we not having any discussion on that?
I thought we had the discussion on this
I
one.
guess.
There'll be a lot more discussion once the report comes back.
This is just a report.
Yeah.
And just, can I ask a question then? I'm assuming, I don't think it says in there, we're expecting resources of the staff to prepare this report, and that's part of the justification to approve it, that we think it has merit to have them spend whatever number of hours that they're going to spend to prepare this report.
Is that a question or just?
Well, no, I mean, I guess it's just relevant to whether you support the motion or not, and that we are, it's just, well, it's like, okay, fine, that doesn't cost us any more because George and Bluffs does it on a flat rate anyway, so if Jody spends more hours to do this on top of everything else we're asking for, we believe it's justified, and if you support the motion, right? That it's worth it.
It's still in front of us. Jody?
Through you, Chair Solich, did you want me to read the motion?
Yeah, just read the motion and then we can vote on it.
That the board directs staff to review potential options for reducing board operating costs, including reducing meeting frequency and exploring the process and requirements associated with a potential reduction in board size.
Okay, in favor? Opposed, if any? None, carried. Okay, can we move it along? Yes.
Through you, Chair Solich. And then I would just advise to receive this report for information as it was moved and seconded already.
Which one was that? 7.2.2?
That the Grey Bruce OPP Detachment Board receive report OPP 2026-11 Board Remuneration Review for information.
And did we have a mover and seconder on that?
Yeah, I have on record member Coburn and member Martin.
Okay, in favor? Opposed, if any? None opposed, carried. Would it be fair to say we can get up to the consent agenda? Okay. We accept the consent agenda. We pulling anything here? I think we are. Member Coburn? If not, I will. Go ahead.
I would just ask that we pull 8.1.1 regarding the Inspectorate General's notification about hate crimes.
Absolutely. Okay. Do we therefore motion is that the consent agenda be received for information as circulated? We've got that one item, 8.1.1, which is the Inspector General memo number 1, notice of issue increase in anti-Semitism and hate motivated incidents. Do we need a motion on that? Jody?
Through you, Chair Solich, the motion could read as follows: that the consent agenda be adopted for information as circulated, less item 8.1.1.
Yes. Mover? Member Colburn, seconder. Member Mackey, in favor? Opposed, if any? One opposed? Member McQueen opposed? No, okay, in favor. Pass. Okay, we can have a discussion on 8.1.1 at this point, is that correct? Okay, do we defer to Marla on this?
Can I?
I'm sorry.
Since I pulled it, might I start by asking some
Yep.
questions of Marla?
Yep.
For you? I feel like I need to have a greater understanding of the local situation in regards to hate crimes. Are we seeing any trends? Is it trending upward? How much is this on our radar? As well as how we're gathering data on it and reporting of those kinds of crimes. We read about it happening in the city of Owen Sound. I don't so much hear about it in the larger Grey Bruce area, so I am curious to know if you would identify this as an emerging problem.
So thank you. So I will start off by saying that the memo does say that although the notice is directed toward police services and municipal police service boards, OPP detachment boards also have an important governance role. So it is more directed towards the municipals, but I do recognize the input for the OPP. So the memo has 7 actions that they want the police to take. So I'm just going to kind of speak to what we're doing, and then I'll talk to our local statistics. Yeah. So we do have a hate crime extremist unit in the OPP that deals with hate crimes. And as part of that, since actually 2024, we have local hate crime extremist liaison officers at each detachment. So we have a trained officer that has more training on hate crimes and what to look for in our office, and that is Detective Constable Steve Martin. So just looking for my message on that. So some of the things that they're trained on: definitions of hate crimes, hate bias and hate incidents, assistance to victims of hate crimes, breaking down barriers to report hate crimes, outreach training, psychology of hate crime, social media influence, duties to report hate crime, and how to properly report on it on our reporting system. So that's some of the training they've had. And this was brought out back in May of 2024 that this was implemented at the detachment level. So I think we've been on top of this, which is good to see. They monitored the investigations at our detachment to ensure that they are accurately reported and ensure that victims of the crimes receive the appropriate resources. So that's what we do at the local level. We also have a strong partnership with Victim Services in Grey Bruce. So that's to make sure that we have that communications to assist them. I also followed up with Steve Martin prior to the meeting to get some information from him. And he also advised that as part of his role in that the unit is undertaking a audit of all occurrences going back as far as 2022. So he said he's about 50% complete the audit. And he said there's nothing of significance noted at this time. There's no indication of a hate group or extremism group operating in Grey Bruce. So nothing that's a bigger trend. It's more isolated incidents. One of the other things that the OPP brought out this year was called Operation Connect, which is, again, something that all detachments are doing. OPP members connect with faith-based and cultural organizations to better understand community strengths, needs, and considerations that may affect safety and well-being, particularly during periods of increased activity, such as holy observances, cultural events, and seasonal programs. So we've done that. Our community engagement officer, along with our summer student, have reached out to all of those that were identified in Grey Bruce, identifying if they had special events planned, summer camps, anything like that. So this is just proactive engagement with them to ensure that we have that good communication. And then, so that's kind of what we've been doing proactively and from the OPP standpoint. I also had him pull our numbers since January of 2023. So for the past 3 years, and then currently for half a year. So again, I think it's going to come down to reporting accurately as well. I think that's why you're going to see more. Our numbers aren't high still, but I think that's why you're going to see maybe that there's a little bit more because of his audit. But from we didn't have anything until 2025. I'm going to clarify first. Sorry, hate motivated incidents versus hate crimes. So hate motivated incidents are, there's no criminal act, but there is underlying hate or racial comment, but there is actually no criminal offense. So we had, for those hate motivated incidents, they were all racial comments, and we had 4 in 2025 and 2 so far in 2026 in all of Grey Bruce. When you look at our hate crimes in 2024, so none in 2023. In 2024, we had 3, 1 in 2025, and 5 in 2026. And again, I'm not saying that there was none in 2023. It's probably a reporting thing, and he hasn't finished the audit yet. But the numbers are, yes, they are slightly higher this year. But again, there's nothing that shows a hate crime group per se. They're all isolated incidents that aren't connected. Different areas of the detachment area. Some of them, there was no charges laid. Some of them there were charges. It just depended on the incident. I can give more detail if you want. Majority, I would say, were graffiti related.
For what?
Graffiti.
Graffiti related.
Yeah. Some were, it started as a racial slur, and then in one incident, the victim then started to videotape or record, and then that person took offense to it and hit the phone out of their hand, so then it turned into an assault. Mischief to a pride flag. And one was about a youth being harassed about his sexual orientation. And another one was another comment, and then was assaulted after an interaction between the two. So those are the nature of the offenses in Grey Bruce. And they vary in area. We have them from Grey Highlands, Southgate, Meaford, South Bruce Peninsula, and Georgian Bluffs. So they're not isolated in any one area either.
Thank you, and I'm glad the focus isn't just on race. That's important, of course, but culture, sexual orientation, gender-based, those all matter. So I'm glad that it's on your radar. And for now, it doesn't sound like it's a huge issue, but we know things tend to start in the big cities and move our way, and it's good to have that on our radar. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I think Member Colburn's questions were the same as mine. And thanks for the detail. I don't need anything more than that. Good. Any further questions with respect to Marla for the IG's report? No. Okay, we've accepted it. Is there any vote necessary on that? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Through you, Chair Solich, I've been advised yes. Now it will just have to be received for information.
Yep. Okay, can be received for information. I think we needed a mover. Member Colburn, seconder. Member Reading, in favor? Opposed, if any? None, all in favor. Carried. Okay. Up to new business, Jody? We're good, okay. New business discussions. Further to the notion, notice of motion discussion provided by member Kathy Moore-Coburn at June 23, 2026. Meeting of the Grey Bruce OPP Detachment Board. Allow member Kathy Moore-Coburn to speak to the following items. Go ahead, all yours.
Thank you, and it's really late. The meeting's been going on for a while, so I'm going to try to be quick. The last one has been addressed. That's board orientation and onboarding, and we have a motion in that regard. I was looking for perhaps the board to be updated on the status of the MOU that we were asking Georgian Bluffs to provide us, and that's in regards to the support, admin support that our staff provide to us. I realize it probably seems a little late for that because we've been operating under and no MOU, but my idea is that we want to have this done for the new board's consideration moving forward. I also understand, correct me if I'm wrong, that Georgian Bluffs may not be taking on the admin role going forward, and so we need to talk about an MOU that's in place that's generic, that can be used should we have different admin support going forward. So I'm just looking for an update on that, the MOU.
Your comment just sort of came out of the blue, Kathy, about they may not be continuing. Is there some chance that not only will some members be gone, but our administrative staff would?
Well, I don't want to speak for staff, but I guess I can share that I've heard that it's not necessarily a for sure thing. So I think it's yet to be determined, and I will let staff speak to that. Mostly what I was looking for is the status update on the MOU. And any heads up, perhaps Vice Chair Nickel is looking for information if it was available at this time regarding the ongoing support that Georgian Bluffs has provided.
Absolutely. Through you, Chair Solers, I can't speak to the first part regarding Georgian Bluffs administrative staff. I haven't heard anything regarding that, so I can't update. But I can speak a little bit to the MOU. So the MOU, in consultation with our treasurer and other staff, we anticipate a report going to the new board, and the reason that is that there are significant budget, it'll be during the budget process or a little prior to the budget process, because Sam will be bringing back a report regarding time tracking and resource requirements based on the expectations that have been put forward this year and last, including consideration of staff capacity and budget requirements to support community engagement, because we've heard a lot about community engagement, which is currently not budgeted for, as well as staff is assessing whether or not the current allocation of the half-time FTE is sufficient to meet board existing expectations, because it was based on a half-time FTE, which was me, like they based it on my salary. And as you've seen at our board meetings and behind the scenes, much more staff has been integrated into the process. So that that report will address if a different allocation may be needed. We're not sure, but that report will be coming forward.
So just to clarify a couple of things, I thought we budgeted for 3 days a week, not a half FTE. Am I wrong about that?
No, we have budgeted for a half FTE, which was budgeted on my salary. However, we do have senior Georgian Bluffs staff often involved in the process, which would need to be evaluated in a report being brought back.
So, and I think in fairness, the board maybe didn't anticipate needing to have other staff here, and an MOU in place would have gone a long way to clarify what our expectations are and what it is that Georgian Bluffs has to offer. So am I understanding correctly that the report will be coming back to this board, but to the next board?
That was my understanding as well, in that it will be incorporated into the budget process because a staff time tracker is needed, which Sam has reached out about regarding budget.
My concern is this, and I understand logistically with the treasurer needing to provide collect some data. If this isn't coming back till the next board and Georgian Bluffs says we're out, it could take a while before we get admin support in place for the new board, and I worry that we're going to put the new board behind yet again. So I don't know if anyone else, maybe it's just inevitable, maybe I worry too much, maybe other thoughts I'd be interested in hearing.
Scott?
Well, we've talked about it before, Mr. Chair. Kathy raised a good point. In our budget process, we thought we would have a half-time admin support. Georgian Bluffs has been offering a lot more services, from a staff perspective than that. I'm not sure the board expected. I'm not sure how the additional staff support came to be. I mean, it's a lovely gift from Georgian Bluffs, but we can't expect that they're going to continue to do that on an ongoing basis.
I'm sure somebody's rattling the chains on your side, the Georgia Bluff side too.
So, I mean, I think the board needs to look at, what is a realistic amount of staff support that we could expect for this size of board. We can easily get that information from other boards. Because from a budgetary standpoint, we can't afford to have 3 staff participating. Like, one support staff, is what we can afford. So we gotta, figure things out on how we do our work with, one staff is my belief, but,
It's also space, right? Georgian Bluffs is donating the space that we're utilizing, the equipment, everything else.
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. And obviously then the conversation about clawing this back to a quarterly meeting has a huge impact on that. So that's gonna factor into the decision-making about whether this should be a monthly or a quarterly, because that's gonna lessen the impact financially.
Jody's gonna weigh in on this too. So.
Oh, no rush.
Well, I saw your hand up.
This comes back to the point I made earlier about the motions we were talking about. That like every time we sit here and we say we want the staff to go back and do another report, investigate, that's time. And it's maybe, no, it's not something you can budget for. It's like, we just, yeah, go do it. It's justified. We want to do it. So we pass the motion to do it.
Well, you're over budget.
Well, and quite frankly, with what we're talking about, the impact of all these extra hours of work are what we just discussed about honorariums for some of us. Peanuts compared to what this potentially could translate into extra staffing costs. I mean, yeah, like at one point in a motion, we're talking about quarterly meetings, but then we're talking about creating 2 boards that are going to each need their own administrator separately and more meetings and more time. So how are we going to cut back expenses from this standpoint if we would even seriously contemplate that decision?
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. So obviously then, this board is gonna need to ask Grey Highlands or Georgian Bluffs, sorry, whether we need to know, are they interested in continuing this process? If not, because it will totally impact what's gonna happen in 27. So should we specifically be asking Georgian Bluffs to advise what
do they want
to do for the 27?
Yeah.
I think that's extremely appropriate, and I think it needs to be done.
Has to be defined.
Now.
What does Georgian Bluffs expect from us?
No, I don't think that's what Member Eric is saying. He's saying, is the municipality interested in continuing to be our support?
Yes.
Or withdrawing? And I think that's information that the board needs, and probably before the election in November, I would suggest. So that we can put the word out there and see if it's going to be a floating location,
Yeah.
floating staff, or is it going to be somewhere else?
Totally appropriate.
But is the issue going to be for the township more about how much the fee is as opposed to whether they want to do it or not? Because if from a budget standpoint, if they come back and say, well, we'll do it, but we can't continue to do what we're doing, have monthly meetings and do all these reports that you want done, and for the amount we've been charging, that's another issue, isn't it? That's going to have to go into the mix.
I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, and I'm not going to speak for staff, but I think, Member Nickel, you do have to expect that staff are going to provide you with some resources beyond just running a meeting, especially when it's a new board. You do expect them to develop some policies and do some work outside of that. That's what the MOA ought to be defining. And that's what we haven't had in place, and that's, I think, where things went by the wayside a little bit. But I'm not gonna speak for staff, whether they want to, whether it's too expensive, whether it's too onerous, whether they're sick and tired of it. I can't speak for them on that regard. That's why we're asking for them to to let us know.
Okay,
So
member,
that's part of the definition. We need them to define the terms of what would be required and whether there is interest to proceed.
Nicole, jump in.
Thank you for it, Mr. Chair. And my question, I think it's for Jody, but just remind me again, the 8 member municipalities, the Georgia Bluff staff time is divided between those municipalities? Those member municipalities?
To be determined, that's the second bullet.
Through your chair, Solar, the budget currently is divided between, I guess you could say, the 7 municipalities currently. That conversation has continually been deferred, but it was initially established as the 9, though legislation legislation was established that was not taken into account that it actually, First Nations do not contribute to the operating, so it is technically 7 divisible by equal portions for the operating budget, which does account for our time.
The operating budget has only identified staff time on a part-time basis, a non-full-time.
Correct, the part-time FTE, yes, part-time, which is half of 35 hours per week.
Okay. Has that also contemplated the per diem rates for the community members? That the budgetary, is there a budgetary line for that? There has to be, so I already know that. I answered it as I said it. Thank you. I was like, wait, it has to. So, okay, and that is shared between the participating member municipalities. Okay.
Kathy.
I just want to bring us back to the MOU, and I know all of that is part of it, but is it, through you to our staff, is it unreasonable to ask Georgian Bluffs to report at the next meeting in September as to where they see their support of this board going? Again, I don't want this to be thrown into the lap of the new board to decide where the heck they're going to have meetings and who's going to support them.
Just say.
Sorry to be true to Kathy. The staff, we need to get the information from Sam first of what that financial impact is and how much staff time has been dedicated so far to it. I think it's reasonable for us to bring something back at the next meeting. There has been no formal discussions for us to no longer be administrators of this board. But we do need to look at how much time and resources have been put into it, and I think the MOU will help to speak to what time and resources that we are putting into it and what you guys expect from us.
Sure. Paul, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Good discussion. I'm going to make a few comments here. One, I think Georgian Bluffs staff have done an amazing job of to organize the last, well, not quite 4 years, but because we started late, of doing what they do. And I want to, again, take this opportunity to thank them for what they do, because I think they've done a bang up job. Secondly, I think in a conversation, Georgian Bluff is in the center of Grey Bruce, which seems to work for us in the sense of, a central point versus on one side or the other. I know there's the option of having the electronic means, and that's what I'm on today, but I tell you, in person is so much better than being on electronic. Yes, sorry, in person for sure. But I would say if that report is to come back, I don't know if there's some issues with Georgian Bluffs that they don't want to do. I'm not hearing that. I think a report could come back in the sense of the true cost. I think it's important that we need to know the true cost. One is that the last 3.5 years, obviously it's a new board, it's a new union. There's a lot of growing pains throughout that. I would say probably going forward into the next term, I would say a lot of those have been worked out, and maybe there's some streamlining. And I would think also in that report to come back the cost of having it monthly, bi-monthly, or quarterly meetings. So then we have that there's some of that information as well. And do they feel that they can take on the business in a quarterly or bi-monthly, meeting? I think the only problem is, I think with a quarterly, you may lose some of the correspondence because then it becomes old, but some of that can still be sent out to the members as well, so they can keep them up to date. But I just think that, I think we have to be careful here. I'm not hearing that maybe Georgian Bluffs doesn't want to do it. I'm hearing that we want to make sure that they're from a cost point, that they're being covered. And I think from a fairness point, from the 6 other municipalities, we want to be fair, from the point that, what it is costing Georgian Bluffs, we need to be fair with them and paying our fair share. But I do say, Mr. Chair, it is in the center of our riding, or not riding, but in the center of the catchment area for the Grey Bruce Police Services Board. So I think that is a very positive thing in the sense of trying to maintain that and carrying on, because I don't think there's any issue. It's where it's being held, it works, and that kind of thing. So those are just some of my comments, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I think Nicole wanted to weigh in next.
Thank you, and yeah, good discussion, and I appreciate it. And I don't think anybody is diminishing the job that staff are doing. I think we all recognize that it's taken a lot of effort, and thank you for it. The only other thing that I'm going to throw into the mix, and I will probably be the most hated person in the room after this comment, but I think the other thing that has to be taken into consideration is the hospitality that Georgian Bluffs is providing as well. And by that I mean the coffee and the spread. It's a little excessive, I think, for a meeting like this. Appreciated, but maybe excessive.
Go ahead, Kathy.
Yeah, I think it's a little excessive too, but then I can be accused of being miserly with the dollar. So I appreciate that comment. I appreciate Paul's comments. I suspect we're going to see Georgian Bluffs come back with a bigger bill, and that's fair. I would say that I have been, if I may, to staff, a bit surprised that we have a senior administrator at all of our meetings. I think I can only speak for myself, but I sort of had the notion that our admin support would be Jody. And yet we've had senior staff at all of these meetings as well. And that might be one area where we can try to cut the cost a little bit. Maybe not, maybe staff disagrees with that. But either way, when we get the report back from the treasurer, I think I wouldn't be surprised if we're all a little shocked at how much our expenses are from Georgian Bluffs. That's information that's fair, and it's information we need to go forward, because maybe we look for a less expensive way to do the administration of this board.
I would assume as well, as part of this process, staff can put their numbers together, they can do some calculations, but at the end of the day, it's Georgian Bluffs Council that's going to make a decision whether they want to continue, not the staff. They can make the recommendations, but ultimately the council is going to say, we want to continue this or we don't, right? And when we talk about Georgian Bluffs, well, I don't know that it's Jody that's going to say, I don't want to do it anymore, or I do want to do it, or that's going to be the determining factor. And for sure, if the township's losing money, then we have to either cut back on the resources or pay more, right? Or a combination. Well, that's like,
I think Jody wanted to weigh in there.
No rush, just whenever. I was just going to provide just a small bit of context regarding, there will always likely need to be at least 2 staff here because we do live stream. Often it's Carly, just because the clerk's department, which consists of me, Carly, Nancy, Sarah.
Yeah.
We're the ones that are cross-trained to live stream.
Yeah.
So Carly, though she is higher administration, is the live streamer generally, and then we'll also answer questions. But yeah, it is 2 minimum required to run meetings in a live streaming setting.
But I understand that. That makes perfect sense. So 2, but we, I think it's Brian sitting back there now. We appreciate Brian. at Carly's rate of pay, and I don't know what that is, but I would imagine a clerk's rate of pay, is there someone else within the organization that can run the IT for us that would be more economical for the board? These are all things that need to be discussed, and I know it's uncomfortable discussing them, like the amount of money we pay for food each month, but it needs to be discussed. And so hopefully that information will come back to us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can weigh in just quickly. Minute taking and live streaming is within the clerk's portfolio. And we have 3 people in clerk's department here, one of which is on maternity leave. So it does leave me and Carly. We have backfilled the maternity position and we are training on live streaming. But that position was just filled on Friday? Yeah. On Friday. So that's why you haven't seen Emily, but we do only have 3 within the clerks, and those are live streaming and minute taking are in their portfolio.
Anyone else?
Where does that leave us? What are the next steps?
I think she's bringing something back.
We need to know what's up.
Yeah.
Future holds.
Well, is that going to your council first? I mean, is that staff report gonna go to you? Then it goes back to this to come to here, because at the end of the day, whatever she tells us is still gonna be decided by you.
Well, so I say, effectively, Georgian Bluffs has to come back to us.
That's what we're discussing.
Yeah.
So these are the next steps. I mean, we can say as much as we want, it's gonna be the council decision, but let's be honest, if the CAO or whoever writes that report and says this is too expensive, we don't recommend it, we don't have the staff time, I can't see any reasonable council taking an opposite stance. So anyway, Jody, what are the logical next steps?
Through you, George, thank you. I was just going to say, essentially the resolution wording could be in so that we have it recorded officially for task tracking. That a report be brought forward outlining the time and resources dedicated by the Township of Georgian Bluffs in support of board administration operations. I would hesitate at this time to tie a timeline to it only because likely our treasurer will be weighing in on that report heavily and she is not in attendance today, so I can't speak to her.
We only have 2 meetings left, right?
September.
She's asking to have 1 meeting after this one being September.
Oh, just 1?
Yeah.
Not October?
Through you, Chair Solar, no, according to our calendar, which was approved, I'm not sure which meeting, but early in the year, we are skipping an October meeting due to the election and will not have it passed.
That was decided on a long time ago, if I remember.
Yes, one of the first meetings of the
I
year.
recall that.
I mean, sure, we decided that. We can always undecide that if we felt it was absolutely necessary, but we'll leave it at that for now. I'm just, again, I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just trying to set up the new board to be as successful as possible. Are we good with that one then, Jody?
That matter goes back to Georgian Bluffs. That's what this is about. Go ahead.
Through you, Chair Solis, the recommendation that I had just read, what doesn't have a mover or a seconder, but it would be that a report be brought forward to this board outlining the time and resource dedicated by the Township of Georgian Bluffs in support of board administration and operations.
So that would be September if we only have 1 meeting.
That's correct.
So this, not necessarily this term, but the board, like meaning not Georgian Bluffs is what I had read. Not, it wouldn't be, because we can't give a recommendation for the Township of Georgian Bluffs. It would be that it would be brought to the Grey Bruce OPP Detachment Board.
Yeah.
If that's so what it would.
Which would be September.
Through you, Chair Solis, I cannot commit to that. If you wish to make that, it's like our treasurer needs to write that report.
Okay.
Or weigh in heavily at the very least, and she is not present. If you'd like to make that motion, that's within your
motion just to get it going.
Okay. Seconder? Member Colburn, in favor? Opposed, if any? Member McQueen opposed?
No, he's
just
that's a
He's on delay, is he? So the head
Can I
shaking
move
and vote. That's better.
Can I move
Okay.
ahead with the second one?
Okay, please do.
Budget decisions, so I know Member Mackey, and I did miss a meeting, so if I'm behind, just let me know. We were looking for next steps, assuming that we need to adjust our last year's municipal allocation based on the understanding that the First Nations members of this board would not be paying. I do believe, correct me if I'm wrong, our First Nation member, Faye, was going back to her council, and I just wondered if there's any update on that.
Well, I can address something, and Faye is listening to this at the same time. Okay, myself and Jody, Courtney and Samantha and Carly, we were on an email this morning that arrived on my screen at 8:49. And because I wasn't reading my emails during this meeting, if I may read it. Good morning, Chair Solich and Jody. My apologies for the delay in sending you my council's response to the request for potential contribution toward the board's operating costs. I did present and was advised that due to the current feasibility study on policing that is being conducted on our First Nation, and with the pending general election for council on August 28, 2026, the council is hesitant in moving forward at this time. I did request that this could be tabled until the fall when the new council convenes. That's their council. I thought I would let you know prior to today's meeting.
And that's coming from Faye.
And that's coming from Faye. That's what Faye, yeah, she's on the screen.
So thank you for that. That helps fill in a bit of a gap. My question remains, what do we do with going back and readjusting our budget? It sounds like that's what we need to do for last year. What do we do with the money that is not accounted for that's going to have to be divvied up? Does this not have to go back to our respective councils? That's for last year's. I haven't even touched on this year's budget, which also included, I believe, that contribution from First Nations as well. So I guess I'm asking somebody to help me understand how this gets resolved. Again, I don't like kicking the can down the road. I really think if this is last year's budget, our councils deserve to know now if they have to kick in extra money to cover the shortfall from last year.
Nicole.
You do it from reserve?
I don't believe we can adjust last year's budget that has been passed. I mean, I'll let staff weigh in on that, but I can't imagine that we're gonna be able to adjust it. However, that being said, to your point, can we take it from a reserve? Can we catch up the shortfall that way? Or do we just make it a 2027 budgeted line that we are collecting the shortfall?
I think those are your two options, your two options.
I mean, we can't ignore the fact that we're short that money from last year. We have to make a motion that it comes from somewhere, I would assume. And then, yeah, going forward, our budget needs to be different, but I don't think our 2026 budget reflects that. I think it's based on the old one.
Your policy is. Your member municipalities should really recognize this, and I would encourage the elected officials around the table to bring that back.
I would like to see it in the form of a letter from staff that
From
we
the
can,
board.
so that they're
From the
hearing
board.
from the board, so that they're hearing from the same message from everybody for every
Yeah,
municipal.
and then I would think that would come from a letter from the chair of the board. Not staff, it's gotta come from the chair, that we recognize it, the shortfall in the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'd make the motion, the motion that we do take it from reserves, because that was allotted in, we were not expecting this. Rather than going back to municipality and asking for more money now, does not make sense at this juncture, so take it from reserves and report out accordingly that the nation members will not be contributing in that, the reasoning for the reserve allocation.
Okay, Jody wants to weigh in.
Through your Chair Solich, I would recommend that, as much as you're probably not gonna like to do this, if you defer it until the treasurer is in attendance, because from my recollection, we do not have sufficient reserves for 2024 and 2025 and 2026. I think we have 2 years, but again, I don't want to say that officially because that is the treasurer's domain. So that would be a recommendation to consider.
I would agree. You need the treasurer here. Yes.
But Chair Solers, the difficulty is we only have one more scheduled meeting. So if we're waiting for her to show up and that's no fault of hers, we haven't asked for this officially, and that's what I'm doing right now. Then she brings the information back in September, and then we have zero ability or time to do anything with it.
Sadly.
Do we need another meeting after that in October?
Just like the record.
I'm sorry?
Through Chair Solers. I've been told, and I can look further into this, but that the clerk's department does not have the capacity to facilitate an October meeting due to the election.
It's election time. I fully, I would be surprised if a clerk's department said, yeah, we can have a meeting in October. You'd be better pressed to say no, or August, next month, before nominations.
I'm definitely supportive of that. I just think we've got some big items on here
There's gonna
around
definitely be things that are gonna go over to the new board, but this is a big one. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, a new board is going to have enough things to learn as it is.
Yeah.
Without thinking about budgets, without thinking about what is the staff capacity that, you know, a board of this size is going to require. I mean, I'm fearful what I'm hearing about where the budget may land. You know, looking at what we're paying for right now, this board can't afford the amount of resources that we're currently, Georgian Bluffs is gonna be requesting that we pay for.
Well, I agree with Nicole. They're not gonna take a look at this in October.
No,
They're too
from a timing perspective, I mean, I don't want to go back to my council and say I need another whatever amount for when they're already upset with the increase that they've had already to the police services budget. You know, can't keep going to the well.
Yeah.
At some point, a member of municipality is gonna say, I'm not paying that.
You're coming down to two choices realistically. One is to have an August meeting. Or, because you're not gonna get one in October, and Nicole's right about that. And correct me if I disagree with me if you wish, Jody. And it's doubtful you'll have one in November because you've got a whole new board. It's not even in place yet. And I don't think anybody's gonna hold anything in December. It's gonna be the same problem. I'm sorry, Paul, were you weighing in?
I'll move a motion that we have a meeting in August.
Second that.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor that we meet in August. And
So that would be our normally 25th date?
in favor? Opposed, if any?
I'm just looking to see if that's even feasible for me. I'm opposing it just because I don't know timing.
Okay, and let's do a count of the heads in favor, just to be sure we'll count the hands.
So we can just have a
Discussion?
I'm sorry?
little discussion.
Discussion.
I'm in favor of the meeting if the staff can bring the information back. I
Exactly.
don't want to have a meeting for the sake of having a meeting. So, I mean, we should look to our staff to see, you know, with holidays and everything else, where the information that the board is requiring can legitimately be brought back in August.
Can the staff support it, Jody or Courtney?
Sam's not here to answer that
Through
question.
you, Chair Solers. Unfortunately, Sam, our treasurer of Georgian Bluffs, is not at this meeting, and she would be weighing in heavily on what would need to come back. Between meetings, when we meet monthly, due to publication requirements legislated, we really only have a 3-week turnaround to provide information. There is a vacation this week. So you are looking at a 2-week turnaround. So I cannot speak for our treasurer. But yeah, when you have monthly meeting with the legislative requirement of agenda being a week in advance, you do have a 3-week turnaround for bringing items back. And there is an additional week, so that
That's
puts it
another-
down to about a week.
The treasurer has an additional week of vacation between now and that August meeting as well.
Just for perspective that may have not been considered.
Sorry, I was on the wrong week. Give me 1 second. So, I was on the wrong button. Give me 1 second. I jumped ahead to September.
But to remember Mackie's point and question, is there a different report that we've asked for that comes back that maybe we look at that in August and move the budgetary report to September? Like, is there things that we can do in August to advance the business of the organization?
I think the reason we wanted the budget piece sooner rather is so that we can have some time to think about what we're gonna do about that information. And if, Courtney, you were checking on Sam's calendar, we could always make it a week later and have 2 into the next month if that's gonna interfere with our holiday time.
So she's away the following week, which was the week I was looking at. So she's here in August, it's the first week of September.
Is here when?
She's away the first week of September. She does not, I'm just checking calendar, she has,
Well, we're here in September.
that's the end of September,
That's
Catherine's
the end of
asking for
September.
earlier.
Is there any way we can leave it and have our treasurer consider that and then notify us if that's impossible? Is that a fair
I
compromise?
think that's a reasonable.
I mean,
As we take that and jump back.
Tentatively scheduled.
To do what?
tentatively scheduled for August 25th pending the availability of our treasurer.
Or leave it that the chair calls the meeting.
We always have that option.
When is the September meeting?
25th.
Last Tuesday.
Oh, so September, sorry.
29, huh?
Or second, isn't it? I didn't.
Yeah, same, yeah. And Chair, I will remove my other point of discussion, if that's okay with the board, given the late time and the fact that Member Massey is already packing up beside me.
I'm following right behind.
Okay, do we have something to vote on? I'm getting freeze already.
That August 25th meeting of the Grey Bruce OPP Detachment Board be tentatively scheduled pending staff availability.
Is there a mover? Member Hurd, seconder. Member Wood, in favor? Opposed, if any? Passed. Okay. We're in the final stretch. Unfinished business, none. Consideration of motions given, none. Notice of motion, discussion, and inquiries. Are there any notices of motion, discussion, or inquiries that have been provided to the board administrator in advance of this meeting? That I'm aware of. Nothing in bylaws, closed session, reporting out of closed session, adjournment. Date of the next regular meeting we know is going to be fixed at September 22, but we also may have one ending in August 25th, pending comments from the treasurer. Adjournment, here we are, date of the next regular meeting, we've got it. That the meeting be adjourned, and I just read it, however I phrased it, at the time 12:28, you can tell there were 3 minutes to go. 12:28 PM, I don't even know if it's AM, PM. Is there a mover? Member Wood, seconder. Member Reedy, any discussion? Absolutely none, by the sounds of it, Bob.
I'm ready to put my hand up and say, let's go.
All in favor? Opposed, if any? None. I just want to read one last note that we've now determined the next meeting will be likely at the end of September. It's likely it may be the last meeting of term. If you have any matters you wish to put on that agenda, please let Jody know well in advance of the September meeting. Anything else coming up, and she's got to get it on. Please keep in mind that the regulation permits the extension of the term for members to extend up to 6 months or until another individual is appointed. That's in the regulation. If you intend to request an extension of your membership on the police board, please let Jody know as well. For community members, if you intend to reapply, please speak to Jody to find out the dates your application can be submitted to your municipality. Okay? It's just information.
Shouldn't that have come before we adjourned the meeting, though? Like, is that on record now?
No, it's just this
Oh, we
for
haven't
me.
adjourned yet.
We have a.
We have adjourned. This is just a reminder,
Okay,
nothing more.
gotcha.
It certainly, and because a lot of it arose because Member Erg raised that question. What if he doesn't run again? What if he is not reelected and chooses to stay on? Well, the regulation does cover that situation. He is a member until replaced. But he may choose not to continue to be a member after the election. That would be his choice. But I think that answered your question. You fall into the same category as the community members.
I already
You're under that-
told Jody that I was running again. I already informed her.